Welcome to Book Club The Yappening, a podcast where we discuss books and yap about life as we please. We want to make sure this remains a safe space, so please see the description for trigger warnings and helpful links below. A reminder, we will be spoiling this book, so pause, go back to read, and come back to yap. Welcome back to the Yappening. With another Brittney episode.
Yes.
I swear to God, I ain't gonna fucking fall asleep this time. I did not get enough sleep.
Place your bets now. Will she
I'm
fall
gonna
asleep?
be honest, we're recording these in August. It's Con Crunch month for me because I'm going to Dragon Con, and it's just no sleep whatsoever. And Brittney has the voice of a goddess. And pre-warning, my allergies decided to kick in, so now I'm nasally, and that's how this is going to be. Brittney, what? Oh wait, what's the pen of the week, Nick?
I'll put a picture on screen because it's so tiny. The Living Dead Strike Back.
Yeah, they do.
Oh yeah.
I had a professor who did a bunch of posters that were just zombified. So that's where like the Hooked poster came from. Beauty and the Feast.
Oh yeah.
I think I've worn the Toy Gory pin before,
Uh-huh.
or maybe I've just thought about it. Yeah, I asked you for keywords and you said zombie.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, speaking of that, what are we listening to today?
Today we'll be discussing American Rapture by CJ Leede. All right. But yeah, so American Rapture, this was not the scheduled thing, but I read the book and I kind of loved it so much and I had it from Libby, so I'm like, let me just write the script while I have it.
Spoilers, yada yada. Also, trigger
Triggers.
warnings.
Yes. This one especially, I mean, all of my episodes, and I know I say this every time, especially this one.
Especially this one.
But this one definitely deals with some very fucking heavy topics. I promise I'm not going to give detailed descriptions, so please don't fear. You're basically just going to get general horror, tension building, and gore. So please trust me that I'm not going to do harm to you guys as long as you're comfortable with gore. But
And then stuff happened, and then they.
we do get a lot of cutaways,
Yeah.
so just don't ask questions that you don't want answers to, okay? That's all I'm gonna say. So anyways, but again, please trigger warnings. This one so especially if you decide you're gonna want to read the book, please. Okay, so picture it. Small town Wisconsin, present day. We meet our girl Sophie. She is getting ready for her day. She is currently enrolled in private Catholic school. Though she and her twin brother Noah were homeschooled up until this year, so this is her first time going to a school. Is this first year? And let's see.
R.I.P. Catholic school.
Yeah, and
she's gonna learn something other than about the life of Jesus.
She's gonna learn a lot of stuff, honestly, against her will, some of it. So,
no.
But her family's church's Monsignor had advised her parents that her and her brother needed more social interaction, which is why they're now enrolled in a school rather than being homeschooled. And honestly, to say that Miss Sophie is sheltered is like the fucking understatement of the fucking century. Like, genuinely, there's so much that this girl just doesn't know. So their 17th birthday is coming up. Sophie will be spending it at home. It is likely to not be celebrated, and Noah is miles away from her in a facility. We're going to later find out that Noah was sent away to what I assume to be a conversion therapy facility due to having gay FBI books in his room.
Oh, hell yeah, brother! Hell yeah!
I mean, I'm joking. It was, but it was.
Oh, it's like, joking? Oh, okay.
No, they did find material that they didn't appreciate.
I'll just imagine it's FBI material.
But yeah, just same flavor. So
he was watching a movie where someone fell off a cliff and another man needed to grab his hand, and the parents walked in at that exact moment, as they always do.
Absolutely.
And said, no.
Yep.
No, it's to save his life, isn't it always?
Yes, literally. So, Sophie is joining her parents for breakfast. Her father, looks up from his paper and makes a really weird remark, asking if she plans to go to school looking like that. And she's wearing her school uniform, which she always wears. And she's like, what? Like, what else would I fucking wear to school? But basically she's like, yeah, and then he shares a look with her mom, and then her mom shares a look back, and so Sophie's like, that was fucking weird. So
Your mom was wore the same thing 9 months before you were born.
well,
Shit.
so it does seem like Sophie has had a bit of a growth spurt, so her school uniform is not fitting in the appropriate fashion. But as her dad goes back to looking at his newspaper, she notices a headline that says Philadelphia and NYC closes all public schools during due to flu outbreak. So the flu is super fucking bad this year.
Somebody.
The whole Northeast has been quarantined. The priests at her school are saying that the flu isn't going to affect the Midwest at all, and honestly, if only that were the fucking case. Um, our girl here is a huge reader, though. She's only allowed to borrow certain books. Like, her parents have like a pre-planned list that she's allowed to read from. So basically, she's allowed to read middle grade children's books. She's also allowed to read how-to books and any religious texts. Anything other than that is basically off limits to her.
So, like, how to Jesus? Like, how to worship?
So like she
how
gets
to,
like a how to raise chickens,
how to light a Catholic candle?
a how to train dogs. She has read like mechanic manuals. So she legitimately
They let a woman have a mechanic manual?
it's a
I'm
how-to
sorry.
book, so she's
Sorry.
allowed to learn skills. No, I get what you're saying, but like how to knot tie, like, so she knows how to do so much because obviously she's a 17-year-old, like almost 17-year-old, so she doesn't really want to be reading children's books. She's also pretty much read what her library has to offer in terms of that. So she will pick up a lot of like how-to manuals just so she has something to do because she's not allowed to leave the house at all, period, except to go to school in the library and church.
What?
So like if she isn't picking up books from the library and then spending her weekends learning how to do something, she's basically just going to be
Are you
sitting
sure this is
staring
not
at a wall.
Scientology and not sorry.
No. You're good. It's just one of the way more conservative like flavors. So
You think they would have pre-ordered all of her fucking uniforms so she wouldn't be busting out?
thank you. For real though. But anyways, yeah, so she isn't allowed any electronic devices or to have unsupervised time with computers and stuff like that. So like her parents very, very, very tight leash on her. But at least our girl has a plethora of random talents from the how-to section. She basically says that she picks up 1 to 2 new skills every single week. So it's Saturday. Sophie's like, she goes to school, blah, blah, blah. It's Saturday now. And her mom takes her to the mall. Sophie hasn't been to the mall in a really long time, but her mom tells her that they need to get her a new wardrobe. And again, she's like, I'm not understanding why like this is being said or like this is happening. It's weird. But at the mall, Sophie notices that a lot of people are wearing masks, and she's not sure if this is normal for people outside the church because again, she doesn't see people outside of her church pretty much ever. So she's like, oh, this is weird. Is this like how the other half lives basically? And
Ooh,
then
trendy.
right, and she's noticing that her mom is giving the masked people a lot of like dirty looks, and she's like very confused about like
I want to be where the people are.
literally.
Sorry, it's giving that right now.
Yeah, so she is unsure of why her mother is interested in getting her new clothes. But while Sophie's in the dressing room getting changed to try on her new clothes, she catches an eyeful because she hasn't seen herself in a full-length mirror in years. And so her body looks significantly different than it did the last time she saw it. So
Do they not have mirrors, or she's just not allowed to?
they don't have any full-length mirrors. The only mirror she sees is basically when she's brushing her teeth in the morning or like putting her hair up.
In the mirror.
Yeah, so she just doesn't see herself from like the neck down.
She's in a neck brace. She can't look down.
Right. Well, yes, you can look down, but there's a difference between like seeing yourself and just like
I will
looking
agree
down
with
at
that
yourself.
because I feel like when I look at myself normally, like it's
Sure.
different. But when I look in the mirror, I'm like,
Yeah.
I guess there's like a perception skew, what you actually see versus what is, and it can go both ways. Like you can feel like you're
Right.
worse off than you actually look. You can feel like you're better than you actually look
Yes.
because of the way that you see through your own eyes.
Yeah, but she is horrified to see that the curves are curving. And this is basically going to be a theme throughout the book, that I'm mostly going to glaze over because we get the point. She's hot and people are being creeps to her is essentially what we're going to be having. So this is very much a coming of age book, and like our girl is very much going to be like going through like the phases of a sexual awakening for the most part as well. But people are very much going to be inappropriately noticing her constantly, so just be aware of that. And then while in the dressing room, her mom comes in and gives her a bit of a talk. She explains to Sophie that she only has one true gift to give in this world, and once she gives it away, she'll be soiled and forever marked. Unless, of course, she gives that gift to her husband and only with the intent of making babies. Her mom then goes on to explain to Sophie that when she was growing up, she wasn't the pious woman that she is today. Before she met Sophie's father, she had gone off to college. She wanted to become a professor, the fucking horror. And she was offered an opportunity to study in Ann Arbor. And while she was studying in Ann Arbor, there was a couple that lived in a farmhouse outside the city that she was able to stay with while she was studying. While she was in school, though, she got really loose with her morals, her clothes, things like that. She was going so far as to show off her ankles. One
Not
day,
the ankles.
right. One day, the man of the house that she was staying with, though, assaults her. And it occurred to her that that was completely her fault. He's just a man after all, and we know that men should not be expected to control their impulses. So after her assault, she basically like quits school and like moves home and just buries herself in religion. But anyways, she also feels like she was just incredibly vain. Like she felt beautiful, and so she like treated herself like she was beautiful, and that in turn caused her pain and suffering basically. So she's like, this is my fault. I was vain. And then she basically makes this comment of, and then I had you and your brother, and you were both just so beautiful, and so instead of being vain about myself, I was vain about my children, and that's why your brother's gay. Is because he was a gorgeous baby and now he's a homosexual and that's all my fault. So you know, we're really getting some vibes here.
Assuming they've disowned him.
Right. But yeah, so they sent him off, and it was like this whole thing. Like, so Sophie, she wakes up in the night, there's a storm, she goes into her brother's room because that's what she does when she's scared. Her brother is startled when she comes in, which is unlike him. He tells her to close her eyes while he like hides something, but then he turns around, he's horrified because her dad's like in the doorway, and then like a fight ensues. And Sophie is very much internalizing, like, had I not gone to his room, Dad wouldn't have woken up, he wouldn't have gone in there, he wouldn't have seen what he saw, he wouldn't have beat the shit out of my brother, and my brother would still be at home. So like, of course, with all of the other fucking guilt that is placed on Sophie's shoulder, she's also taking that guilt on, which is like not her, like that's not hers to bear, but you know how guilt be. So the main lesson her mother's trying to impart on her is that womanhood is a burden, and that it's their greatest responsibility as women to understand that burden, because if they don't understand that burden, the world is going to teach them that lesson, and it's not going to be very nice when that lesson comes down on them, basically. So really just trying to set a picture and a stage here for what type of home life our girl's coming from here.
The more episodes you do, the more I need that pin that says protect your daughters, but it's crossed out and says educate your sons.
Yeah. Yeah, just very
Just
much that,
Evergreen.
honestly.
I'm gonna wear that the rest of the entirety of the show.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, as I said in the past, like everyone's so worried about protecting their daughters that they're not worried about teaching their sons to be humans. So side note from the mall, Sophie made eye contact with a boy, and now she has this like
Slut.
boy butt.
Slut.
Oh,
That's why you said slut.
she made eye contact with the boy's butt.
She made eye contact. She slut.
Yeah, but she's having just a yearning that she hasn't had before. So like she has a new body, and her new body is feeling new feelings that she's never felt before.
She wouldn't know, but she's turning into Tina Belcher. But
Yeah, absolutely. So anyways, Monday morning rolls around. Sophie's father's newspaper now says flu strain shows shocking new symptoms in the Midwest. And shocking in fucking deed. The final symptom of the new flu strain is noted as causing manic or erratic behavior, and again, under fucking statement of the century. At school, there's an announcement that a student has come down with the flu. Glad that this isn't affecting the Midwest at all. Once at home, Sophie sneaks a peek at the newspaper. So she goes out and pulls out the newspaper to like read the article instead of just the headline, because she is becoming acutely aware that like information's being kept from her.
We never should have taught her how to read.
Right, exactly. How dare they? But the flu seems to be way more alarming than her parents or the school is even making it out to be. She makes a call to her brother Noah, and he asks her to find out more about the flu. He asks what she knows now, and then he says, I need you to do some research because the facility I'm at is making it seem like it's not a big deal, but like I get the impression that it is actually a big deal because like they're not telling us
So
things,
is he
but
at a gay conversion place?
yeah,
Okay.
I'm not necessarily certain if it's like solely gay conversion, and it wasn't necessarily said that it was conversion, and we will find out later that like a girl that's there with him is like was sent there because she's pregnant at like a pregnant teen.
Maybe just troubled teens in general.
Yes, but there's queer kids there and stuff like that. So it's not outrightly stated, but it is a religious facility that he's being held at.
Nothing bad happens there ever.
Exactly. But yeah, so the facility is like really downplaying it, but he is very correctly assuming that things are way more serious than anyone's treating it. Sophie makes her weekly trip to the library. The regular librarian isn't there, Mrs. Parsons. Sophie tells us about Mrs. Parsons, that she had recommended Sophie books, but when Sophie's like, I'm not allowed to read those, she's just kind of like, I won't tell if you won't tell type of thing. So she encouraged Sophie to like pick up some books that she's actually interested in, and like, if you take them home, I won't let anybody know that those are the books that you're choosing type thing. Because like it is also a fucking huge disservice to force your teenagers to read below their reading level, right? Because like reading books is important to see obviously how other people live or different points of view from your own, but like when you're learning, you need to be learning how to read at appropriate reading levels, right? Like, because you're not going to learn or get better at something if you're constantly in the beginner level, right?
That's they need the lower level books that teach subservience, listening to authority,
Right.
etc., and not the ones that say be creative, enjoy freedom.
Hmm.
So nothing regarding America at all. Once you hit high school level, that's when you start getting the think for yourself propaganda.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. So, anyways, Sophie is at the library. She's ready to pick out a new book, and how she likes to choose books is basically at random. So she'll pick an aisle, she'll close her eyes, and she'll just kind of walk down the aisle holding her hand against the shelf, and then she'll just pick a book randomly.
That's wild. Like we watch a lot of roll for blank
Mm-hmm.
TikToks and people who put movies or books on like a wheel app and just spin it and land on something. Like it's so randomized. To do that in a library, you're it's in uh whatever God's hands now.
Literally, yeah. And as she's doing this today, she hears someone from behind her say, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but reading generally requires one to keep one's eyes open. And she quickly turns around and she sees the boy from the mall. His name is Ben. Once he sees her, his whole demeanor changes and he becomes like kind of nervous. Like he realizes even goes like, "Oh, it's you." And so methinks
He's been practicing that line for the past 10 minutes and nothing else.
right, exactly. But so he is he's a little smitten with our girl here. And then they have just a really cute flirty little moment. And we find out that he's the librarian's son. So he offers to like help her find what she's looking for, and she's like, "But you're not a librarian." He's like, "Yeah, but I'm here all the fucking time. Like if you chances are good if you're looking for something, I know where it is."
Dewey Decimal's my bitch.
Right, exactly. So let's see. She basically asks like, "Hey, where's Mrs. Parsons?" And he's like, "Oh, she's like come down with the flu. She's not feeling well today." Sophie can tell that he seems kind of anxious about this, so this leads her to ask if she can use the library computers to look up some information on the flu. And he tells her that the like public computers are down, but he's like, "If you need help, I can definitely look something up for you on like the main computer." Um, and so she basically is like, I need to find out about the flu. And he's like, cool, what do you need to know? Like, what do you already know? And she knows nothing about it. And he's like, how is that even fucking possible? This has been going on for months. Like, this is all over the news. Like, how do you know nothing about it? So he just kind of brings up some general info for her. And like, he's like, oh, come over here and look at it. And when she's like kind of nervous to like come behind the counter with him, he like turns the monitor around. Like, so he's like, oh, she doesn't want to be like too close to a boy. So he's very understanding and able to pick up on her social cues, which I just absolutely love.
No, she's just not an employee and she knows better.
Right, exactly.
I'm not a rule breaker.
Yes. So he's basically telling her just like sort of the cliff notes, and then he's like, but some of the videos that are being shared from the major cities are just so outrageous that I feel like they're definitely fake. Just because it's like one of those things where like you find out just something that's going on and you're like, that's like super villain level bullshit. Like there's no way that's real, and then you find out that it is. So that's kind of like that type of thing of like, these videos are fucking nuts. There's no way that these are real. These have to be fake. But unfortunately they're not. But Sophie kind of determines that the flu is incredibly serious, and the newest strain that's come out is called Sylvia. And then even the videos that
Of course, it's named after a woman. Is this a hurricane?
just you wait. So he
Oh my
wait.
god, it's a zombie cane.
Yes. Regardless, even if those videos are fake, all of the major cities have been quarantined to the point where nobody's allowed in or out of cities. And then the hospitals are basically overrun in like just the major cities. Which, you know, we know all about that. Unfortunately, we saw that shit play out in real time. But there's also been like a major surge in deaths related to the flu. And then Ben also mentions that there's a religious group called the Crusaders, which is picking up an awful lot of traction. So it's like on top of like the flu that's pretty major, we also have this subgroup that is kind of picking up steam, and they just don't have really great ideology. So it's like, of course, on top of like the illness that's actively killing people, we have a group that's basically about to start making major waves that's also going to be unsafe.
Welcome.
Right.
Here's is a pill that is used for animals that doesn't really work, but we're gonna make you take it anyways.
So the
Here's some
issue,
silver for you to drink, and here's your vial of bleach to inject.
yeah,
What's the new
absolutely.
blue one that they're doing now? There's something like something blue.
Oh yeah, because I know Kaylee was talking about it. It's basically just
Yeah.
like a dye that's used in surgery.
Yeah, oh yeah, some people I actually know now, like I guess one of their parentals is now taking it. Drinking it.
Methylene blue.
Yes. Yes, but
But red dye bad.
yes,
They say liberals are sheep.
that's so true. But anyways, unlike our real life religious groups, the religious group of this book does in fact believe that the flu is real. However, they think that it's God's plan for sinners. So like they think that the flu is real, and they want the flu to spread and kill people because they think the flu was put here by God to kill the sinners, like to purge the
Almost like a
sinners.
rapture or something.
Almost like an American Rapture, yeah. So
They're,
Sophie's
they're gonna be really surprised when it hits them.
It's like it will never get to me because I don't sin, I'm pious.
right. But Sophie's like absolutely shocked and horrified. She asks if she can print some of this info out. She asks if people know about the flu. Like she's like, do people know that this is happening? And he's like, you're literally the only person that doesn't know that this is happening. So he's genuinely like just full on flabbergasted. But he's also so sweet. He doesn't make her feel stupid about it. He's just like, I'm shooketh, but like here's all the info you are looking for. The following week at school, the school is buzzing with words like hospital and Sylvia. She decides that she's going to lurk in the school library to try to steal a moment with the computer when the librarian steps away. She does a quick Google search, bringing up an article that says Midwest braces for flu surge. But before Sophie can get too deep into the article, she hears someone clear their throat, followed by computers are used for schoolwork only. She turns. The librarian, Sister Anna, is standing there. She notices that the sister, though, is inappropriately close to her. Like, she can feel the woman's body heat radiating through her nun robes. Like, this woman is, like, on top of Sophie. The sister then starts coughing. Again, she's right on top of our girl. Sophie apologizes and shuts down the computer. She's trying to put some social distancing between herself and the nun. Sophie is so close to the woman that she can't move without, like, physically brushing up against the woman, and Sophie is obviously very, very uncomfortable by this. She tries to give the old Midwest scooch past, only to have the nun reach out and begin caressing her cheek. Sophie is now incredibly alarmed, and she thinks to herself, like, adults don't touch each other, but, like, also, she's a fucking nun. Also, I'm a child. Like, so, like, this is hella alarm bells are happening right now. Miss Creepy Nun then runs her finger down Sophie's cheek, and her gaze is lingering on Sophie's lips. Sophie may be sheltered, but she is now very acutely aware that this is a situation she needs to exit immediately. So she does sort of very much squeeze past the nun, stroking the nun's thigh in the process. And one would hope that this is the only time Sophie will be harassed and or assaulted today, but it won't. In class, a girl is showing off a nude picture of her boyfriend. She is mostly showing off this picture because her boyfriend cornered Sophie outside and was sexually harassing her. And then he basically told his girlfriend that Sophie came on to him. So now this girl is like, look at my hot boyfriend and his penis. I bet you wish you could have it, but you can't because you're dumb. But Sister Creeper also happens to be the, like, teacher of this class. So she confiscates the phone. But then she's just standing in the middle of the classroom, sweating, staring at this teen's nude picture, until someone, like, comes in and is like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, nothing, and, like, shoves the phone in her desk. But, like, she was very much just drooling over this little boy, basically. Side note, after school, Sophie tries to call Noah to fill him in on the pandemic, but she's told by the facility that it had been evacuated due to an outbreak, and everybody that was staying at the facility has been sent to a hospital. She tries to find out if her brother is one of the people that's sick, and he's like, dude, I don't know. I'm just the basically person that's here right now. I don't know. They've all gone to the hospital. They're all in quarantine. I don't know what to tell you. So Sophie kind of confronts her parents about this because she's like, well, surely you guys knew. Like, of course the facility wouldn't have moved your minor child without telling you, so why the fuck didn't you tell me? They kind of have, like, a bit of a scuffle or altercation type thing. Basically, Noah's not their son anymore, so it didn't matter to them if he was moved. And she basically goes off on them for, like, being really shitty parents.
Proud.
Right. She does end up locked in her room because of this. And then the next morning, her alarm goes off and she hears her room being unlocked. But the door doesn't open, and then she goes downstairs and her parents aren't down there, but there is a note basically saying that her mom's sick, school's been canceled, but the neighbor's gonna come take Sophie to confession later. So now that I've thoroughly set the stage for you, when Sophie returns home, she hears sounds coming from the living room. She hears rhythmic panting and grunting, and she's not sure what she's hearing, but she's concerned, right? Because her parents are sick. So she follows the sound to investigate to make sure that everyone's okay. And there on the carpet in the middle of the day, in the middle of the living room, she finds her naked parents, and they aren't being very godly. She's shocked and horrified, obviously, and she decides that she needs to get the fuck out of the house. So she goes out to her mom's car only to realize that the keys are still in the house. Rookie mistake. She heads back inside to grab keys, and she realizes that her parents not only have not stopped fucking, like, they've continued to fuck. Like, she full on was staring at them, and they were just not at all deterred. Like, they were just so lost in the sauce that they didn't even realize that, like, they had an audience, let alone that she, like, left the house and then came back in. So, she quietly sneaks her way into the kitchen to retrieve the keys, and she takes her mom's cell phone as well out of her purse. And then halfway to the door, she realizes that the grunting has now ceased. So house is fully silent. She very slowly turns to look towards the living room, only to see her naked father standing there snarling at her, and then he comes like barreling towards her. So she kicks it into gear and she gets herself out the front door. As she's opening the front door, though, she realizes that her naked mother is also now charging at her. So she narrowly escapes.
So is this like a zombie virus almost that makes you feral?
Yeah.
28 orgasms later.
Yeah. Literally. So she gets out the door, she slams it. She's holding the door as her parents are like fighting each other to get out the door to Sophie. At one point, her father literally takes her mother and throws her on the floor to get her away from the door so he can get out to Sophie. So she's like, okay, this is not right. I need to fucking get out of here. She's like, this ain't my business. So she decides that she's going to let go of the door and like make a break for the car. But as she lets go of the door to do this, her father smashes his way through the door. Now you may be thinking to yourself, what is this book even about? And obviously we know I love zombies, and this is a zombie book. However, I want you to picture specifically the zombies of 28 Days Later. So we're talking like fast zombies that aren't actually zombies if we're strictly considering zombies to be undead. Now that we're thinking of 28 Days Later, the 28 Days Later critters, now let's remember the soldiers from 28 Days Later, the ones who very much wanted to repopulate the Earth. Yeah, so the zombies are basically being driven by spreading their disease through sexually transmitted fluids. So
Interesting.
yeah. The erratic behavior is basically sexually assault just happening rampantly in the streets.
So the nun?
So yeah, the nun was horny.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically just, yeah, people are gonna be out here.
No, I mean.
But yeah, that's why the nun was being sexually aggressive towards Sophie, and it's likely even why the teenager had cornered Sophie and was like just being all creepy with her.
I didn't question that for a second.
Well, I mean, yeah, because who knows? It's a teenage boy, right? But
no, but I mean, nuns being solitary and being usually portrayed as like sexless or not having desire. That's not always gonna like. They're human.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I am going to be skipping over everything that would be very traumatizing in that way. I'm only going to build tension. I will not in any way describe anything other than minor gore. So please, please, please trust me that I will be cutting away from anything that's graphic, dealing with assault. Okay, so just stick with me and let's go. Both of her parents make it out of the house. Sophie is luckily able to make it to the car without being physically harmed in any major way. Psychologically, never going to be the same after this.
Mm-hmm.
She pulls over momentarily after getting in the car and driving off. She's trying to form a plan because she just kind of got in and fucking took off and was like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. I just know I need to not be here. All of a sudden, there is a loud siren coming over the radio and an emergency broadcast. Immediate quarantine has gone into effect. Vehicle movement is fully restricted. Roadways will be blocked. And all the citizens are required to stay at their home until further notice. She is now stuck in traffic on the highway. Obviously, there's a standstill, as there always is in these types of movies.
How does she know how to drive?
Her parents did have her learn how to drive. There was a reason given. I don't recall what it was, but that was like one of the few things that she was allowed to like kind of go out and learn. I mean, well, you know, she's gonna have to drive a fucking truck full of children around one day, right? So that definitely makes sense.
If nothing else, a like how to drive manual for like teenagers would be in that for that age range, like the middle age.
Yeah, but no, she does have her license. She isn't allowed to drive anywhere by herself, but her parents did feel it was important for her to know at least how to drive.
Bigger question is, how did Michael Myers learn how to drive?
You know what? Such a good question. Such a good question.
No answer then?
I don't have an answer for you. No, I'm sorry. I know I usually do, but I don't today. So girls in traffic, obviously stand still. Sophie watches as a road rage incident transpires. A man gets out of his car. Sophie sees his face. His eyes are very glassy and he has a really eerie smile on his face. And Sophie just immediately knows that this man is most certainly infected. Okay, yeah. So Sophie can see that this man's eyes are glassy, creepy smile, definitely infected. She watches as he goes up to another car. These are the two road ragers. The infected man pulls the other driver from his car and throws him to the ground. He gets on top of him and tries to stick his tongue in the other man's mouth. Things escalate from there. It gets pretty gnarly until the passenger of the man who's being attacked gets out of the car, grabs a tire iron, and beats the shit out of the infected dude to get him to stop what he's doing. The woman swings the tire iron again and again until Sophie can hear the man's skull crack and he stops moving. The two people get in the car, but as the driver who was initially attacked gets in his car, he turns around and looks at everybody sitting around and goes, "What the fuck is wrong with you people?" Because of course he was just assaulted and everybody just stood around watching. And who would do that, right? Like, who would let somebody get assaulted in front of them? That never happens in real life. Side note, Sophie has now seen 2 penises today. I'm also not entirely convinced that she knows what a penis is. At a point earlier in the book, she says that she's not an idiot and she knows where babies come from, but after seeing these penises, she's describing them as that awful thing. So I am not certain that she understands how babies are made. She may know where they come from, but not how they're made. So I'm not certain if she's just so horrified by what she's seen that she can't even fully process that that is what it was, or if she genuinely just has not a fucking clue. And I'm leaning towards she has not a fucking clue. So Sophie's sitting in her car. Day turns to night. She is listening to a Christian radio station, the talk show. So let me get this straight. This thing is jumping person to person, taking over their bodies, possessing them, making them fornicate in public outside of sacred unions. We are clearly looking at a situation that's either demonic or angelic. Either way, the sinners are going to pay.
What's the opposite of Occam's razor?
Right? And they're like, and it's happening in major cities, and we know that there's like fewer Christian people in cities. And like, I would argue that that's probably statistically untrue, right? Like, a higher population means certainly there's a higher population of Christians than there would be in smaller towns.
It depends, unless they're like trying to categorize, like, are there more Catholics? Are there more Christians?
But even
like...
still, if we're talking New York City, I have to assume that a huge chunk of that population would fall under that umbrella.
Yeah, I get the sense they're going for like, oh, blue cities are they're just godless
Yeah.
places. But imagine like just walking around New York City and not seeing like what's the word I'm looking for? Traditional looking Hasidic Jew.
Right. I know that I'm sure that they have huge populations of other,
Yeah.
religions as well, but like, just, yeah.
Yeah, and I was gonna add on to that, like there are no cathedrals in New York City or anything like that. Like,
Right. I genuinely feel like, well, and they have such like a high Italian population, and Italians are,
Aren't they Catholic?
yeah,
Most Roman
just, I
Catholic.
feel like there's like just, and I could be talking out my ass. I don't know shit about shit, so don't fucking come for me. But like, I genuinely feel like if you have a larger population size, statistically speaking, these groups that are generally speaking very common, what you would have a higher population there. It's like maybe there are more non-religious people than there are religious, but you can't really say that like there's just no religious people living in New York City. That's crazy. That's insane.
I think the reality is it's more of a melting pot. So
Yeah.
just like you said, higher population density, so you're going to have more religious, more non-religious, more people of color, more white, more LGBTQ, more cis straight.
Right.
Like you're going to have a little bit of everything, which is scary to the homogenized small town.
Right. Our key takeaway from this is that the Reverend, that there is a Reverend spreading the good word, and it's honestly going to get really fucking bad really fucking soon. Back to our lovely Sophie. She is certain that she's seeing things because the dead man on the road, who has just been left there all fucking day, is now beginning to move. He rolls over and pulls himself up to his feet. He's convulsing. His movements feel contorted. Our guy is a fucking mess. Like, obviously his face is fucked up, broken. He's covered in blood. He's sweating. He then begins sniffing the air as if he's looking for something, like a predator fucking sniffing out its prey. She says that thing is still jutting from his pelvis. He then takes a jerky step forward towards Sophie's car, and she sits still because clearly this man's a T-Rex. He locks in, though, and he's coming right for her. He comes up to her driver's side door, tries to open the door. The door's obviously locked because our girl's smart. She unbuckles and slides herself backwards into the passenger seat as the man backs away from the car and then body slams into the door again and again. She now climbs into the back seat and starts banging on the rear window to the car behind her. There's a man in that car and like his family, so she's like trying to get him to come and help because, you know, there's a grown man trying to break into this car to get this teenage girl. Obviously, an adult man should intervene, right? Nope, they just sit there and watch. She buries her face in her knees. She's terrified. She's hoping this man will stop charging her car. Finally, it does stop. She lifts her head and looks, and the man is standing in front of the car now. She thinks, okay, cool, it's over, until the man runs up and slams his skull into her windshield again and again until he has fully broken the windshield. He's about to crawl through towards her. But then all of a sudden he stops and tilts his head like he can hear something, and then he takes off into the night. Sophie is relieved until she hears a woman begin screaming, and that continues until it eventually just stops. Traffic eventually begins moving sometime later. The police stop and are questioning everybody, trying to find out, like, are you guys infected? Trying to figure out where you're going. And basically they're trying to clear traffic, but also direct people to places that they need to be. Either, like, sending people who are potentially infected into quarantine zones or sending everybody else home and making sure that there aren't any minors left unattended. So Sophie pulls up to an officer. He takes in the car and he's basically like, what the hell happened? And she explains, and he's like, well, did any bodily fluid get on you or like in your mouth or anything like that? Do you have any cuts that blood might have gotten into? He then asks, let's see. He asks how old she is, if she's alone, where she lives, where she's going, and then he is kind of like, shit, okay, she's an unattended minor. She is pretty far from home because she says that she lives in the city that her brother is in. So he's like, fuck, I gotta do something with this kid, right? So he's like, okay, can you pull off to the side? I can't send you off on your own, but I also don't have time to deal with this right now. So can you just go sit off to the side and I'll like come and take care of you in a minute? Fast forward. The officer is named Morrow. He gently wakes her up because she's been sitting there for so long that like she has fallen asleep. And so he wakes her up. He starts asking her about any symptoms she might be having. He then tells her that he is headed towards the town that she said she's going to. But he first needs to make a stop off at a friend's. So he said, I'm not going to leave you alone, but I am going to take you with me. I am also going to leave you with my, obviously a lot of shit happens between this conversation and like him being like, I'm taking you to my friends, but he's like, I have to go check on somebody. He's a really good dude and I'm going to leave you with him because I can't take you into the city that you're looking to go to because it's a quarantine zone. And if I send you there, I basically might as well kill you right now, basically. Like, if you go into a quarantine zone, you're absolutely going to get the flu and you will absolutely die. And our cop is a good guy, okay? Mm-hmm. And so he's like, my friend is a really good dude. He lives out on a farmhouse. Like, there's nobody out there. I'm going to go check on him and I'm going to leave you there because I can't just send you home. I don't know that you don't have the flu, but I can't put you somewhere with people who have the flu because then you'll definitely get the flu. So he's basically like, I'm going to leave you here. You'll be safe with him. He's like a good dude. He'll monitor you for symptoms and then we'll figure out what to do from there.
You keep saying he's a good dude and I'm worried.
No, I'm saying that because I know just normally one would assume that a male cop with a teenage girl is probably up to no good, and that is not the case. Like, he is a good dude. We like Morrow a lot. So let's see. And also, just if one man says another man is a good dude, you know, you should probably take that with a grain of salt. But I'm telling you that everything is, in fact, on the up and up. We do not need to be suspicious of our guy.
That makes me more suspicious.
Whatever, man. Feel what you want to feel. Our girl is not pleased, though, obviously, because she thought that he was just going to take her to her brother, and now she's finding out he's not. But he's like, I genuinely cannot put you in a quarantine zone. I can't take you there. I'm sorry. So on the way, basically, he puts her on the back of his motorcycle, and they head off. And so on the way, she is trying to find out more about the virus, basically saying like, oh, like everybody's acting kind of funny and aggressive, huh? And he's like, you're joking, right? Like, how do you not know what's going on? Like, I genuinely have no idea. So he explains what's happening. He says this has been going on for months, but the new strain we know almost nothing about. It's causing people to act out. But at first there were so few cases, that a lot of people just felt like this new strain wasn't even real, because again the reports are so over the top, right? A flu that's making people like go out and just fuck in the streets and like just sexually assault people. That's crazy. That doesn't sound real. But it
I understand people not taking the tawny variant seriously.
Yeah. So it starts out like a normal flu, aches, chills, fever, runny nose, respiratory symptoms, and then you get better and you move on. But this new mutation, you get better, and then a few days later, you get a fever that's worse than the first round of the fever, and then you begin with a headache and confusion, and then it kind of goes from there. Men tend to get a red rash on their hands, but the virus seemingly hijacks your brain. After the so-called erratic behavior, you eventually do succumb to the fever. So it pretty much burns out. But if you get that strain and you end up with the erratic behavior, you are not surviving it. Like 100% of the time, it is fatal. What's going on, Nick?
Just the red rash on the hands is very strange, and I understand this is like a, you know, fictitious
So
virus.
it is going to be linked to syphilis in a way, and that it behaves in the same way that syphilis behaves in the brain. And the red rash on the palms is a symptom that is commonly found.
That's where my head was going, was like a rash, how it eventually attacks the brain and stuff, confusion, fever. Like I was gonna ask if this like mimicked an STD, or if the book ever explains that.
Yeah,
That's
no, it does. They do kind of link it because and there will be a vaccine, and obviously if the flu's only been going on for a couple months, having a vaccine doesn't make sense. But and I don't I will get into this, but the vaccine that they're doling out is basically a flu shot with something related to syphilis. I thought that syphilis was treated by just like your run of the mill antibiotic. It doesn't seem like there's a vaccine for syphilis specifically. So I don't necessarily know, but they have basically been like, it acts like syphilis, so let's put a dose of something syphilis into the flu vaccine and give it to people. So that's kind of the vaccine that they're working with, which isn't 100% effective, but it's better than nothing.
that makes sense
Right.
from a science point of view.
Yes, as someone who is not good at science.
No, but that's how vaccines work, is give like a
Yeah.
modified version of, especially ones that like prevent before it starts, give a little bit.
So your body knows how to fight it.
Correct.
Um, oh, go on.
It's like elementary school science, people. Come on.
Right, I know. Uh, okay, see you. Hijacks your brain, erratic behavior, you succumb. It can sometimes last a few days, sometimes less before the fever gets ya. Morrow tells her that it's spreading really fast, and that he's concerned with her attack on the highway. Um, Basically because like this guy was like bleeding all over your car. You're covered in blood. Even though the blood is actually from her stabbing her father, but also her dad was like on top of her, bleeding on top of her, like, and then none was coughing near her. So it's like she could have come into contact with this in so many different ways that this cop doesn't even know about even. So his main concern is just trying to make sure that she's safe and okay so that he can ideally save her. It's spreading fast. He doesn't want to put her in the quarantine zone, blah, blah, blah. Sophie is in a daze pretty much because he more or less just told her that her parents were dead, without so much saying that her parents are dead, but basically like 100% of the people that get it will die. So she's like, he basically just told me that I'm an orphan. So let's see. On the back of the motorcycle, they're heading out. Let's see, they're also heading in the opposite direction of where her brother's going. Like, So she just starts yelling and screaming that this is stupid and it doesn't make sense for him to take her all the way in the wrong direction if he's just going to turn around and go back the other way. So she is screaming at him, I need you to take me to my brother. She starts like punching him again and again. She's just like beating the shit out of his back while he's like on the motorcycle, and he fully rides on, making zero effort to stop her, not even acknowledging that this is like happening. And so she's like having this outburst of emotion, and then she's thinking to herself, like, I'm legitimately punching a cop right now, like I'm going to get myself into so much trouble, but she's just so upset. And then when they arrive at the friend's house, they get off the bike and he just looks at her and goes, do you feel better now? Like, basically, like, you're clearly going through a lot, like, go ahead, get it out of your system, girlfriend, like, beat the shit out of me, I don't care, type of thing. So he's like, are you feeling better?
I feel like he'd be a good dad.
We like him. He's also like 24, just to kind of
Patient as fuck.
yeah, literally. There's also a thing where like his like older sister had died like when he was growing up and stuff like that. So like he's got a lot of there was also a part that I kind of cut for time, but kids that they were finding on that stretch of highway that were by themselves, they had a bus to evacuate them and all take them somewhere. But when he calls over to be like, hey, I got another one, is there room on the bus? They were like, we got an issue over here. Basically, someone that got on the bus had the fever and started attacking everybody on the bus. So he had just spent the evening putting kids on a bus to get them to safety, and he knows that every single one of them, if they haven't died, they will be dying, because basically just the one person took out the entire bus. So that's another reason he's like, you're my project now, because he's like, I need to just end this knowing that I at least saved one kid. Like, I just sent a bunch to their death. I need to make sure that one at least makes it out alive. So that's like kind of another reason he's like, we're besties now. They get to the friends. He's like, wait out here. I'm gonna go inside and like just kind of bring my friend up to speed, make sure everything's okay here. Like, yeah, it's not safe for you to come in with me, so just kind of chill. Also, I can't take you where I'm going because I won't be able to watch you because I'm gonna need to be working, and it's, unsafe. Just unsafe. So okay, she Maro goes inside the house. She begins thinking that she can probably start his motorcycle and drive it off, like, and just head out on her own, because she's like, I saw him start the motorcycle twice, and I'm very observant, so, like, I'm sure I can just drive this motorcycle. And so she gets on the bike, and she, gets it started, and she's about to rev the engine when she hears a crash from inside, and Maro's screaming, and she's like, oh shit, he sees me taking his bike, he's about to come out here and yell at me, but he doesn't come out of the house. And then she's just like, what is going on? And then she's like, he doesn't sound like he's mad. He sounds like he's frightened. So she runs up to the porch, because she's got a big old heart, and she's like, let me go see if I can help. And inside the house, she hears a dog snarling and barking. And our girl is prepared for this because she has read a how-to book on training dogs. So she goes inside and she sees what she describes as to be not only the biggest dog she's ever seen, but this dog is bigger than she ever thought a dog could be. She's like, this is a fucking mammoth of a dog. And he's being very aggressive with Maro. Maro's like throwing a chair at the dog, like just fully not in his element right now. So she pretty much notices that the dog is guarding something on the ground. There's like a heap of cloth on the ground that the dog is very much trying to keep Maro away from, and there's flies swarming over the cloth. So we will come to find out that that is Maro's friend. He got infected and decided he didn't want to go down like that, so he self-exited. So Sophie ends up diffusing the situation between Maro and the dog, and she Maro kind of goes outside to like take a minute because he just found out his best friend was dead. He's also going to be like, well, like, I can't just leave him here, I'm gonna bury him, type of thing. So while Maro's out of the house trying to like get that shit together, she finds some dog food, and so she is very slowly and quietly trying to like come up to the dog and give him food. She extends her hand out. He is growling, but as she approaches, he's like kind of getting quieter and quieter with his growling. He then very carefully reaches out and takes food out of her hand. He munches it, and then he like fully comes on up to her. She's like giving him little scritches. And she thinks that this dog was bred intentionally to look as scary as humanly possible because he's just like this big, black, beefy dog. The dog after kind of getting a couple scritches, turns sideways and slams into her, fully knocking her to the ground and just laying on her and like whimpering. And she's just like giving him scritches and rocking him and telling him he's a good boy. Sweetest, goodest boy that ever lived. She hears Morrow yelling because he told her to wait outside and she had gone back in the house to like try to calm the dog down further. And then he comes in and the dog's just like laying on top of her for her, and he's like, what the fuck? But also like they don't know that animals can't get the flu yet, so it's also like, what are you doing? Like, stop. He's like, I'm trying to keep you alive and you're doing all the dumbest shit. But he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm telling him you're a friend. If you want to calm down and like introduce yourself, this will probably go a lot better. Because the second he comes back into the room, Pepper starts growling again. But yeah, she's like, I'm telling Bargus that you're a good friend, that you're a friend if you want to come introduce yourself. And he's like, Bargus? And she's like, that's the name on his tag. But Bargus is a mythical, monstrous black hound from English folklore. Fast forward a bit, they ditch the motorcycle because Sophie is like, I'm not leaving here without Bargus, and if you're gonna leave on the motorcycle, I'm gonna fucking take this truck over here and peace out with my new dog. So Morrow's like, god damn it. So they take the truck and they leave the farmhouse, and with that, Bargus has joined the party. They end up making a pit stop at a gas station. Sophie goes in to use the bathroom. Whilst in the bathroom, it's fully pitch black and she slips in an unknown goo on the floor.
Ew.
She gaslights herself into believing that this is soap, because if she tells herself it's soap, it must be soap, so it's not anything gross. Certainly, she just slipped in soap. She exits the bathroom. And Sophie sees a man coming out of a back storage room, and he has a very glazed look on his face. Her foot squeaks on the floor because she has not soap on her shoe. And the man then looks up, sees her, and comes barreling towards her. As she's running away from him, he manages to grab her shirt and like yank on her. So she grabs a Santa figurine off of a shelf and smashes him in the face. She then like yeets herself from the gas station with the man still hot on her heels. The second that the man has exited the gas station, though, Bargus, world's goodest boy, is out of the back of the fucking pickup truck and taking flight. He takes the man down. Morrow yells, Sophie, get the dog, before he bites him. But it's too late. Bargus has already understood the assignment and has protected our girl. He has ripped the man's throat out. Morrow runs up to Sophie. Basically, did he touch you? Like, did he get anything on you? She's like, no, I'm good. I did slip in something in the bathroom, though. And he looks at her and he's like, you need to take your clothes off immediately. And she's obviously like, no, I'm not getting undressed in front of a man in the middle of a parking lot. And he's like, I'm serious. That shit needs to get off your skin right now. So he just grabs a bunch of paper towels and dunks it in the like window cleaning solution. And he like is like, I'm gonna turn around, but you need to take off your clothes and you need to wipe yourself down. Because she is covered in a viscous white slime. So we can maybe assume what that is, based on how the flu is acting. So she gets undressed, she cleans herself off. There's a blanket in the truck that she wraps up in, and then once she is in the truck in the blanket, Morrow then takes his time to like wash off Bargus' face and make sure that he, at minimum, just doesn't have blood on him. And so they are off again. Morrow ends up taking her to another farmhouse. The most important points here is that Sophie gets a new outfit from a teenage girl's room. But as she's in there, she's like kind of having a moment just to kind of marvel at how different this girl's like room and wardrobe is. She thinks like this is a teenager's room and I live in a little girl's room type of thing. So while she's in there, though, she ends up dropping a fire poker on her bare foot and like slices her foot open and like bruises the shit out of it. So Morrow gets her patched up and he gets a crutch from inside the house, gives that to her. She's very much noticing during this interaction how attractive Morrow is.
Girl, calm down.
Right. She's really, really struggling with that. And she feels like she's a sinner for like being attracted to him. She's so full of want. And it's not just Morrow. She also has the hots for the boy from the library. She had a moment of also seeing two of her classmates get down together, like two ladies, and so she was very curious about that. But she's like thinking, because she's going through all of these changes, she feels like because she's evil and a sinner, she's the one that brought the flu into the house and made her parents that way, because she had done something bad by like just being attracted to people or being curious about sexuality. Also, she's getting hot and bothered for Morrow, so she's like, am I hot and bothered, or do I have a fever type of thing? So that's also freaking her out. And just throughout the entire book, she's just constantly going to think that she has the virus. Like, just,
I mean, to be fair,
yes, but just repeatedly, she's going to be like, am I actually feeling a feeling, or am I feeling an illness? So Morrow opens up about his sister to her at this point. Let's see. And he basically tells Sophie that he just needs to feel like he's able to keep at least one person safe. So, fast forward a bit, there's like a tornado, they make it out. They end up making it to, a vaccine zone. They arrive, the National Guard is there. The National Guard gives them a clean bill of health. Basically after asking them 2 questions, they're like, yeah, no, you definitely don't have the virus. And like Morrow like fully lied. He's like, no, we haven't come into contact with anyone. I just found her on the side of the road and now we're here. Like, we haven't been near any infected. So it's like, this is how these stories go, right? Everybody says that they're fine, and then everybody ends up getting sick and dying.
but is it so do they have a vaccine at the zone?
Yeah, so, and
Did they get it?
It's the flu. Yes, they will get the vaccine.
Does that keep them from getting it, or?
It's a 50-50 shot. If you have the vaccine, and you've had the vaccine for at least 72 hours, there's only a 50% chance that you will get the virus if you come into contact with the body fluids.
I guess 50% is better than
it's better than 0,
mortality,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. See, let's see. Oh, they get the clean bill of health. They're like, okay, cool, go to the school gym and get the vaccine. The gym is also being used as just sort of a shelter, so there's like a bunch of cots and stuff in there. And Morrow knows quite a few of the officers there, and as he's like catching up with someone, they basically tell him that this isn't a place for a little girl, and they look at Sophie and they go, is your dog aggressive? And she goes, he can be, and he goes, good, keep him close to you at all times. So they get inside. The vaccine is the flu, syphilis, etc. Oh, because Sylvia swells the frontal cortex of your brain in order to hijack its host, to spread the, like, propagation, basically. So that is what's going on there. The next morning, Sophie runs into Ben, the boy from the library. He's really, really happy to see her. He immediately grabs her and pulls her in for a hug, which is weird, but then also Morrow's, like, kind of giving a lot of side eye, because it's not cool to get in be so close with people presently, you know, communicable diseases. But also he's like, well, I know how teenagers are, and like, goddamn, like, please do not do anything stupid. Like, please don't be reckless. So Morrow's very much like big brother, like, that boy needs to get away from her. So Ben is sleeping one person over from Sophie, so they actually had just basically slept in very close proximity and didn't even realize it. The person that's in between them, Ben has made friends with, her name is Helen. She's hella fucking icy to Sophie when she first meets her. Ben ends up coming to sleep in a vacant cot right next to Sophie, and so between, like, Ben moving from sleeping next to Helen to sleeping next to Sophie, and Helen being super icy towards Sophie, she's like, oh, they must be a couple, and so she's being mean to me because she's, like, worried that I'm gonna steal Ben. Helen is sitting on her cot and she's scrolling through her phone, and Sophie asks her if there's any new updates. The girl's like, well, I'm about to watch this video, so you can come sit with me. Sophie then watches the video. It's a religious propaganda video. A man named Reverend Don Ansel, Helen explains that he's really popular online and he's been picking up a lot of traction. He's been preaching for years that he and his followers would one day be called to action, and now he's preaching that the day is now. Helen goes on to explain that he's basically been uniting all the different flavors of Christianity under one banner. He's more or less harping on the same shit as the radio show. This is starting in large cities due to record-breaking secular and liberal protests. A week prior to the disease hitting, I think, yeah, NYC, there was the Great Librarian Summit where 50,000 librarians gathered in NYC to protest book burning, the fucking horror. So basically, because the librarians gathered, they made the flu become horny. And then in Chicago, 3 days prior to Chicago being hit with that particular strain, a bill was passed allowing men and women's clothing to perform for children. Can you imagine? Chicago's streets were the site of the largest known gathering of drag queens in American history. And honestly, I would love to go to the gathering of the drag queens. I'm just like kind of picturing it as like gathering of the juggalos, but like more fierce.
More face paint.
We're cunty.
More cunty, absolutely. So he being the Reverend goes on to say a bunch of shit that's untrue and out of pocket. He then says that it's not too late. The Lord is reaping, and if we all band together, we can basically make the shit happen. At this point, Helen shuts off the video. She's shaking and she's like, I'm sorry, I can't fucking listen to that man anymore. So Helen is scrolling through reply videos, most of which are aligned with the Reverend's stance. But then Helen clicks on a video titled Mic Drop. And then just a quote. In the video, a woman speaks on a red carpet. She has more makeup on her face than I have ever seen. It's more like art or a painting. She's blonde in a pink dress and she's furious. And then a quote from the video. Stats on drag queens being pedophiles, 0. There's no drag queens being arrested for CSA. Do you know where that does happen? The church. This whole country mollycoddles Christians, and I'm fucking tired of it. Do we have separation of church and state or not? And, like, honestly, so fucking real, because, like, I genuinely have this thought, like, on a weekly basis at this point, just the fucking world we're goddamn living in. It's like, separation of church and states is, like, one of the very first things you learn about our country in fucking like kindergarten practically, and people just act like that's not even a thing anymore. So that's like just, it's like I learned that when I was like single digits. Like, get it the fuck together, you goddamn fucking lunatics. So the lovely lady speaking truth is none other than our favorite queen, Trixie Mattel. The phone is on low battery at this point, because Sophie like wants to try to see if she can figure out where her brother is, or see if she can find out news from him. And so she has to use Helen's phone, and she's like, well, it's almost dead and I don't have a charger, so no. So then Sophie looks around and is like, hey, does anyone have a charger? She then sees a very creepy man in a flat earth t-shirt. He's about 2 cots over from them, and he just holds up a charger. So she goes over and thanks him and takes the charger. He's super fucking creepy, because of course he is. And just know he's gonna constantly be staring at her, constantly being creepy. So Sophie catches him making eye contact with her, but in the same way Fig makes eye contact at Nick's stinky work socks, where she just wants to fucking devour them.
He looks at her and goes,
He sure does, honestly, except it's his penis.
Girl!
So Sophie is having a hard time because she uses the charger, gives it back to the man. Man's fucking creepy. Sophie talks to one of Morrow's friends that's been stationed there. She says, like, I'm looking for someone, Noah Allen, blah, blah, blah. And they ask around and they come back and they're like, hey, no one's seen Noah. Like, that doesn't mean that he's dead. He just hasn't ended up here. So she is just really upset. She ends up going outside to have a moment. Ben comes with her. He gives her a really big hug and just kind of holds her while she's sobbing. Fast forward at the shelter, things are gradually becoming more and more tense. Multiple infected people and attacks have happened that I just haven't covered because I don't need to, but just know that there are infected people happening and people are being attacked within the center. Morrow comes up to Sophie at one point and tells her that she can't wander around on her own, basically saying that things are getting really bad. 50-50 on the vaccine, 72-hour hold, but people within the center, it was just announced that they had to be there for 72 hours after getting the shot, but people don't want to stay there because, you know, attacks are happening, things is getting more and more unrestful, but now learning that they can't leave, it's getting even more tense. Morrow ends up telling them that while things are getting really bad in here, things have gotten even worse outside. Basically, as with all zombie media, humans are actually the real monsters. Reverend Ansel and his band of Merry Christians have been lighting up vaccine centers. And I mean that literally, they're just like rolling around and setting vaccine centers on fire left, right, and center. And then in the quarantine zones, they're trying to get the vaccine out as quickly as they can to keep people who aren't infected in quarantine zones, keeping them uninfected. But basically, to go into a quarantine zone is, again, almost certain death for you. So they're very limited on volunteers who are willing to go in and do that. So, and then also we just have people taking out vaccine centers. So it's really not, it's not going so good right now. So, yeah, so there's a bunch of robed weirdos just running around setting shit on fire because the virus is Sky Daddy's way of making America pure again. There is an update from someone that there's message boards online, basically a database for people who have passed. So if you've been traveling with someone or if you're around someone and you know that they died, you can go and log like, you know, whoever. And if you were looking for someone, you can go on and look like basically like Sophie Allen looking for Noah Allen. So if people find them, like, you can kind of check the boards and be able to like communicate with people. And so she posts that she's looking for her brother. Side note, obviously we've gained party members. Ben and Helen have joined the party. We also have Cleo, a woman who absolutely took Sophie's breath away the first time she saw her. She has a really dark complexion. She's wearing tight red pants and a leather jacket. She has her hair in tiny braids pulled up into a bun. She's wearing gold jewelry. And she ends up just fully giving Sophie her phone. She gives it first so Sophie can check the databases to make sure her brother isn't dead. But then when she goes to give the phone back, Cleo's like, that phone told me my husband's dead. I don't want it. Like, I don't need it. Nobody's going to be contacting me. He's the only person I cared about. But she has also fully joined the party. Let's see. So Sophie is minding her business. She's looking at state maps on the phone because she's trying to figure out her best way to get to Noah. And then she kind of feels someone fully like boring eyes into her, and it's of course Mr. Flat Earth. So she's doing everything she possibly can to not acknowledge the fact that she knows he's looking at her. He stands up and then he licks his lips at her and then kind of walks off, and a couple minutes later she feels someone sit down next to her on the cot, and she's just like, oh fuck. But she looks over and it's Cleo. So Cleo asks Sophie if she's okay with Ben and Morrow. Sophie doesn't understand the question being asked to her, so she just kind of nods. She's like confused, like, why are you asking if I'm okay with them? And then Cleo asks Sophie if she's learned how to read the bad ones yet. If she can feel the creep factor, direct quote. She tells Sophie that there are a lot of really shit dudes out here, and a lot of really shit people in general. Cleo then asks Sophie what she knows about sex, because our sweet baby angel is a deer in headlights at this question. And Cleo's not being a creep, but she is fully clocked that Sophie was raised conservatively, and she knows, like, she's on her own. So she's very much like, I need to kind of help this girl because she's going to get into some really bad places if someone doesn't kind of give her some info here.
What a girl's girl.
Yeah, so she explains to Sophie that ignorance is dangerous in the best of times, and she tells Sophie that she needs to use that phone to do some research so Sophie can fully grasp what she's up against being on her own. Cleo has a moment saying that humans are the real virus and that Earth is just trying to wipe them out. Sophie basically says, like, what about God? And then Cleo smiles and goes, what about her? Cleo then goes on to say that God is just being a real big bitch right now. And then a quote, it's hard enough to be a woman or even just a person in this world. All that guilt and shame and ignorance, it makes it impossible. It's just baggage and you need to lose it if you're going to survive. Got it? Fast forward a tiny bit, Sophie thinks that she is really happy to be traveling with Ben and Morrow, and she's glad that, like, they're kind of her core group, but she really needs to go find Noah. So while she doesn't want to leave them, she is like, I can't just leave my brother out there on his own. So she ends up going over to Ben, and she just says, like, I just want to tell you I'm really happy that we both ended up here and got to see each other. And then she gives him a really big hug and says, I'm gonna take Bargist out for a walk. Side note, baby girl is still fully limping on the crutch. She's like, I'm gonna set off on my own. with just a dog and a crutch in a dream. So she's sneaking out. She leaves. She's sneaking under the bleachers. She's trying to kind of get past the guards, and then she hears someone say, "Hey," and she turns around, and it's none other than Mr. Flat Earth standing there. He tells her that her cop and that kid aren't here and that it's a real bad time for her to have a bad foot. He tells her that he needs her help, that he's been suffering, and he says, "Don't worry though, I won't keep you too long, I promise." And with that, the world's goodest boy rips his fucking throat out. Sophie is freaked out, obviously. She's terrified that they're going to take Vargas from her. So she heads into the admin building where she knows Morrow is. She walks into what she thinks is an empty office, but it's not so empty because Morrow and Cleo are mauling each other. But they actually don't have the flu. So like Sophie is stunned. She's like, "Oh no, they have the flu." And then she's like, "Wait, they don't have the flu. They're just, being sexy." Basically, once they clock Sophie, like everyone's just standing there, deer in headlights, staring at each other. But then Morrow sees that Vargas' face is like just fully covered in blood, and he just goes, "Where?" And so Sophie explains like, "A man attacked me," and basically she's freaking out, and he's like, "Don't worry, I got this." And so he rushes out to kind of take care of things. And if all of this kind of transpiring right now isn't bad enough, the vaccine center is descended upon by the Make America Pure Again gang. Cleo begins tightening up her shoes. Basically, like once Cleo realizes like we gotta leave, she's like tightening up her shoes. And she looks at Sophie and goes, "I need you to run." And Sophie goes to like say something, because again, bad foot. And Cleo stops her and she goes, "The answer is yes. These guys are no good. We have to go now, or we're not going to go at all." Basically, like it wasn't a question. I'm telling you that you need to run. Like I need you to figure it out and muscle through it because we gotta go. So they make it out into the parking lot. Sophie, our Jackie of all trades, hotwires a fucking bus so they can get out of there. And our party sets off. Fast forward, they wind up at a historical house museum type thing. Not fully sure what it was. I don't know. It's a fucking house museum with like a fucking basement that's basically a fun house. So they decide that they're gonna stay the night there because there's only one car outside, and they get inside and find a dead body, and they're like, "Well, that's who the car belongs to, so we're probably good to go, right? Like we're probably safe here for at least the night." Helen and Sophie set off. They're trying to find some food. They go through the basement, and there's just like a bunch of really fucking weird ass shit. Like there's a fucking carousel and like a devil mouth that you can walk through. Like there's fucking instruments. I don't know. It's the weirdest fucking thing I've ever even been explained to. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. This is crazy. But I guess in my mind, I'm kind of thinking of it like the DIA where it has the historical town in the basement.
Hmm.
You know? You don't know? The DIA in the basement, it's basically like kind of Detroit through the years. So like it's a town that you walk through, but like each block is a different era.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm picturing in this basement, except without it's just like weird funhouse shit, but like make it almost like avant-garde type funhouse. I don't know. It's fucking crazy.
Just from what you said, and maybe I'm just adding a religious bent to this. I'm thinking maybe like at one point, or maybe they work for a hell house.
No, so it is a historical house built by someone. It's like up on a hill. So kind of think the Edison house. Also in like the Detroit era, like basically Thomas Edison's house that he lived in. So it's a house that someone at some point lived in that has been converted into a museum that you can go visit, but then the basement is just like this whole other fucking thing happening down there. And there's like a room that's like covered in red shag carpets, but all of the walls are mirrors, so it's basically like the infinity room type thing. And that's actually where they find the dead body, who he has like fully clawed his face off. So he had the infection, got into a room that was nothing but mirrors, and then he went so crazy he like scratched his face off. But then downstairs there's a carousel, but instead of like the carousel in the center of the room moving, the walls like spin around. And then there's like shapes and like music's playing, and then there's like devils and angels. So it very much feels like art, but make it like super trippy funhouse style. Like that was kind of how I was picturing it.
Okay.
But the basement is like kind of a really big labyrinth because it has all of these rooms that have like all of these things. So they end up getting into a giant walk-in refrigerator. But the floor is fully covered in like yellow goo. And then they realize that there were butter sculptures, but then the fridge broke. So the floor is just covered in like melted butter. And inexplicably, Helen dips her finger into the floor butter and then licks it off her finger for
Ew.
whatever fucking reason.
All right. Floor butter or blood and varnish? Which one?
Floor butter.
You. Just.
Would
Jess.
you rather?
Blood and varnish or floor butter?
Yeah.
Floor butter.
Same.
Yeah. Floor butter. All right. Team floor butter, go.
No, I mean your reaction of like for whatever reason was still valid.
Yeah.
Just compared to the very recent blood and varnish.
Although, given where this is going,
Not the worst thing she's gonna take her stick her finger into.
no, but we would all be dead. Our choice would lead to our demise.
Oh, the blood and varnish, yeah.
No, the floor butter.
Oh, shit.
So Sophie and Helen end up having a moment. Helen is very much enjoying the weird museum that they've been walking through, where Sophie is finding it kind of horrifying. But there's also like just pictures of angels like being fucking weird and trippy, and then there's again a big devil mouth to walk through. So Sophie is very much like, what is happening? Again, sheltered little baby, but also this is like really freaky. But Helen's having a real great time being here. She's just like really marveling at everything. She tells Sophie that it's nice to just be out of the gym. Like she's like, I think I'm just happy by a change of scenery. Sophie tells Helen about what had happened with Flat Earth Guy right before they skedaddled, and Helen asks Sophie, like, oh my god, are you okay? Like, did he hurt you? And Sophie said he didn't have a chance to. Vargas ripped his throat out, and Helen just starts laughing and goes, I knew I liked your dog. So they're basically like just kind of chatting, and then they're like, okay, cool. The freezer seems to still be running. Let's go see what kind of food's in the freezer. But as they go to move, Sophie slips, and goes down in the butter. Helen comes over to like help her up, but as she's like helping Sophie up, she too slips and falls in the butter. And Sophie is horrified that Helen fell. And she's like, this is all my fault. Like, I finally have a friend. Like, I was just getting a glimpse of, like, what it's like to be a friend with another girl. And I made her fall in the butter. And she's going to hate me forever. But then Helen just starts cackling, as one does, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Helen is cackling. And Sophie begins laughing, too. And Helen just is laying on her back. And between laughter goes, this is so fucking gross. And then she's laughing and she's like, they're gonna make us sleep somewhere else. Can you imagine Maro's face when we come upstairs? We're just covered in melted butter. And so they're just like having a really good time, just like giggling. And then Helen asks Sophie if she would ever trade her body for someone else's. And Sophie said that she doesn't know. She hasn't really thought of it. And she asks Helen the same thing. And Helen said, without a second thought, absolutely. Helen explains that her mother has had her in pageants since she was a really little girl, and that she hasn't able to have a life outside of constantly being like groomed to be like beautiful and in these pageants. And then the girls that she interacts with at the pageants are all really mean and catty, and she's just like, I absolutely fucking hate it. So it's not so much that she doesn't like her body and she wishes she had a different body. She just would rather have a body that isn't her so that she wouldn't have to be in these pageants, type of thing. So, let's see. She says she just wants to have some control over her life. Helen then apologizes to Sophie for being so cold to her when they first met. She tells Sophie that because Sophie's so beautiful, Helen just assumed she was going to be like really mean like the pageant girls. And so she's like, I'm sorry I was such a bitch because I absolutely misjudged you. And Sophie is really confused that Helen thinks she's beautiful. And Helen's like, you don't know, like, you don't see how Ben looks at you, like, you have no idea at all that you're beautiful. That's crazy. But like, obviously we know Sophie just has honestly never until recently given much thought as to how she looks, and she feels so much shame around being attractive. But then like as they're kind of laying there, Helen turns and is looking at Sophie, and Sophie just feels like this moment is hitting a little bit different, and then she full on goes into the bi panic of like, do I think you're hot, or do I just want to be you type of thing. She's like, I don't know if I am just so enamored with her or if I just want to steal her spark and use it for myself type of thing. So she feels like maybe they're about to smooch, but then Sophie's tummy does a rumble, and fully breaks the spell, and Helen just starts laughing and says, let's go get you some food and go back upstairs. So Sophie, back upstairs, she uses her phone to do some research as Cleo had recommended. She educates herself on sex and sexuality. She also watches some self-defense videos. She comes to the conclusion in her research that lust isn't actually a sin, it's just human nature. She's like, this is just a normal biological thing. Like, why have I been feeling so much shame, and why was I taught that this is evil? And so
The strange thing about the self-defense video is that it ends with, and if all else fails, cover yourself in butter, and you can get away all slippery like.
yeah, you're never gonna catch
Mhm.
me. You're wasting your time.
Covered in oil.
Yeah, literally.
Where the butter's exotic.
We love exotic butters.
Exotic butters.
You just gotta need your exotic butters coffee mug. Let's see. So, okay, she also then goes to deep dive on drag, because obviously they were saying that drag queens are evil and mean to children. So she's like, well, let me like look a little bit more into that. Like, I've never heard of drag queens, and that lady, she was so beautiful and she didn't seem mean. So like, let me see what this is all about. And she not only can she not find a single article or anything discussing an actual case where drag queens harmed children, she's seeing drag as the art form that it is, and she's like, why is the church so against them? Because we also dress up into flirt like costumes and put on pageants, and like we also do that as part of our worship. So like, how is them doing that evil type of thing? So she's really just like kind of, and we honestly love Sophie. Like, she is sheltered, but she's also very curious, and she takes in information with an open mind, right? She doesn't just believe what she's told when she's confronted with facts that contradict what she's been told. So let's see. She is really digging into things to like try to get to the bottom of like drag queens being dangerous, and like, again, nothing. So from here, she turns and looks up an article on Lilith, and I don't necessarily remember why. I think at one point maybe Cleo mentioned Lilith to Sophie, and Sophie had never even heard of Lilith. Like, that's not something that's part of like her church's curriculum. So she kind of goes and looks at it a little bit deeper. And Jessy, are you familiar with Lilith?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's why I'm like shocked that they didn't use Lilith as an example of like the sin of women and stuff like that, and to really just put it in perspective.
It's because it teaches it, yeah, but if you're not someone who's just going to follow things unquestioningly like Sophie is, if you share that story with women, the other lesson that can be taken from it is to think for yourself and have autonomy over yourself and
Yeah,
your
but
body.
how they spin that story is not that way. And if you have a bunch of impressionable people,
Yeah.
that's why I'm surprised it at least wasn't mentioned, because
I think it's not mentioned because you can have a room of impressionable people, but if one singular person is open-minded enough to start questioning things based on that story, like Sophie very clearly would have heard that story and then like completely had other sort of thoughts and questions that spiraled off of that. So I think that it's just easier to withhold information just in its entirety rather than risk having some people start to think independently of what they want them to think. But anyway, she looks up Lilith, and Sophie has always seen the Bible as their history. Like, she takes it as like a historical text, and she doesn't understand how that story can't be in the Bible that she's taught, because history is facts. Like, you can't argue with history. What happened happened. So how can there be two different versions of the same history? And then it occurs to her that men have put together the Bible, and they picked and chose what stories went into the Bible. So
also Victor's right history, maybe.
and she's really just starting to like sort of break down all of that like thought process, which again is why we love our girl here. So she's just like, history can't be anything but the truth, but men are the ones that are writing down history, so they are choosing what we get to learn. So fast forward a bit, Ben, Helen, and Sophie decide that they're going to have a little movie night. So they find a bottle of wine and a little blankie, and they all curl up and they lay down and watch Romeo and Juliet. Sophie is the center of a bisexual sandwich with Helen on one side and Ben on the other. She's thinking to herself that both of them are just so beautiful and perfect. She then just blurts out asking if Ben's ever had a girlfriend, and he says, like, yeah, no, nothing ever serious though. I've also had a boyfriend too. And Sophie is
Okay, Ben.
right. Sophie is, and we love Ben so much. Sophie is so confused by this, and she goes, but which one do you like? And he just kind of laughs and goes, it doesn't really work like that. You can like both. Like, you don't have to like one or the other. And so that has never even occurred to Sophie, which is crazy because like she was so smitten with Cleo and she's so smitten with Helen. It's like, but you're also so smitten with like the boys also get you hot and bothered in the same way. Like,
the denial can be real. I went through a whole denial phase when I was younger, so
not realizing I like girls until I'm like in my 30s. So anyways, Sophie, okay, beautiful and perfect. Oh, and then after he kind of like laughs and says, I like both, he goes, I always forget that you grew up differently than I did. Or that you grew up differently. Like, not just, but just different from the norm. And it has honestly never occurred to her that her upbringing wasn't the normal. Like, she thought, like, this is how everybody grew up. So she also has this moment of, like, he said that, like, it's a bad thing. And so she's kind of eventually going to unpack that. But Ben's body tenses up after they kind of have this conversation. They go back to watching the movie. He gets kind of tense and he scoots a little bit closer until like their hips are touching, and then he gently brushes her foot with his foot. And she wonders she wonders how him lightly touching her like this can make her whole entire body spark to life. And she is also kind of like, is he doing this intentionally, or is this just an accident? Am I reading too much into this? And then Ben just sits up and she thinks like, oh no, I did something wrong. Like, he's upset with me. But he's like, my neck kind of hurts. Do you mind if we sit up? And so she sits up next to him. They're kind of sitting near a wall together. His fingertips brush against her thigh, and her breath kind of catches, and she's like, what is happening? He asks if it's okay for him to touch her like this, and she nods, and so he's on the outside of her thigh, so he just kind of slides his hand up her thigh, and he's just like gently doing circles on her thigh. He's not being like creepy or inappropriate, but he also did ask for consent before he kind of went further with moving his hand up her thigh.
Bare minimum.
Right. So when he finally stops like doing the thumbs on her thumb circles on her thigh, she's worried that he's about to pull away from her. But then he just like fully sets his palm like down on his leg, or down on her leg. And then let's see. She begins to gently run her fingertips up his thigh, and she stops just shy of his zipper, so she's getting a hella fucking bold here. And then he had resumed the circles, and now once her hand got where it got, he stopped the circles, and so she's like, oh no, I crossed the line, I did something wrong. But also, like, girlfriend hasn't even had a fucking kiss yet, like, from anybody, and she's just fully like, I'm gonna poke the peen right now, and gotta love her. She's just like going for it. He kind of whispers her name in a way that makes her feel like she hasn't done anything wrong. He basically, every time she interprets that she's perhaps done something wrong based on his body language, she starts thinking like, he thinks that I'm evil and wicked and sinful and having all of these thoughts, and like he thinks I'm a horrible person, and then he confirms that he does not in fact think that, and so she's just kind of being like, oh, maybe this is normal and fine. So let's see. He begins to trace the circles again. She then runs her finger along his zipper, and she just feels like alive. Like, she just feels electricity. She wants more. She wants to know who she wants to know what Lorcan did. But then it begins to change. His pants are changing. And she can feel movement under his zipper. And then this unfortunate...
It's a frog.
Yeah, this unfortunately very much reminds her of her father and the guy on the highway. So She pulls herself away from him very quickly and scoots herself back into the wall, and he can tell that something has gone wrong, and so he's very much like, he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't, and like, he wasn't the one pushing the envelope, she was, but he's very much like, oh no, I've done something that's upset you, like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to cross any lines. So she is just like fully withdrawn into herself. He says her name. She doesn't acknowledge him. She's just fully having flashbacks to the really horrible things that she's been exposed to. And she's not responding to him. So he gently touches her arm to get her attention, and she flinches away from him, and pulls her knees up to her chest, and she's just like kind of in a little pea pod, basically. She's shaking. Helen is waking up because of the commotion, and Ben's like trying to get her attention. And so she comes over to Sophie, and Ben is just like stammering, and Helen's like, what triggered her? What happened? And he's like, I don't know. And so she's like, let's just give her some space, Ben. Like, Ben, like, back up. So Helen is very much comforting Sophie. Eventually Sophie gets calmed down. They all go back to bed, like actually go to bed. Sophie wakes up in the night though from a nightmare, and she is so warm. She's like burning hot. She tries to pull the blanket off of her and sit up to kind of get some air circulating across her face, but something is preventing her from removing the blanket. Something is blocking the light from her face, and then she notices that hair is dangling down from above her into her face. She then kind of is able to make out a floral pattern, like right in front of her face, and she realizes that it's Helen's dress because Helen is sitting on top of her. Helen is fully radiating heat, and
Oh
she...
no, Helen got it, doesn't she?
Yeah, she comes in for a kiss, and Sophie manages to free her arm and block Helen from kissing her. Sophie lets out a scream. She's like screaming for help. She's trying to get out from underneath Helen, and she's struggling.
So it was the butter.
It was the butter. So Sophie manages to get herself out from underneath Helen. Helen is between her and the exit. It is fully pitch black, for the most part, other than obviously the exit sign. And then Sophie decides that she's just going to head into the basement. However, she doesn't have time to get her crutch. So she is, just off on her bad leg down to the basement because that's the only way that she can exit this room without having to, make it past Helen. Basement is fully pitch black, but baby girl is amazing at retaining information, so she is actually able to navigate the maze of hallways in the dark. So she's able to like run as fast as she can and turn a corner, whereas Helen is like fully slamming into walls as she's like pursuing. So Sophie's at least able to like keep ahead of Helen because of this. They end up in like a room that's kind of like a catwalk situation, where some of it has railing, some of it doesn't, but it's very like thin strips of walkway that's above another room. So there's music playing, and Sophie kind of gets far enough into the room and she doesn't hear Helen anymore, and so she's like, did she stop chasing me or did she fall? And she's like, I didn't hear her fall off the catwalk, and I feel like I would have heard her over the music if she like took a tumble. So she is standing near a handrail, and she looks over the handrail to just kind of see if she can assess what has happened. She feels something wet drip onto her shoulder as she's looking over this railing. So Sophie very slowly turns her head, as another drip falls onto her shoulder, and she sees Helen suspended directly above her, just fully drooling. Helen digs her fingers into Sophie's skin and hair, and she like completely drops down onto Sophie, knocking them both over the railing. So like her momentum of jumping down from like the ceiling onto Sophie flips them over the railing. On the descent, they're like fucking banging into all sorts of shit. They hit like metal pipes. They land. Helen is on top of Sophie, and Sophie is in so much pain that she cannot move. Sophie then hears something from above her. She hears a bark, and then she hears Maro and Cleo's voices yelling. And then all of a sudden Helen is off of her. So were able to make it down to her in time and like pull Helen off of her before anything bad happens. They basically subdue Helen, kind of take care of that situation. Ben and Vargas come and pick up Sophie. Once Helen's been taken care of, Ben like sits down and buries his face in his hands, and he's like fucking fully weeping and apologizing. He couldn't sleep, so he decided to take Vargas for a walk, and because he did that, they weren't there to help Sophie when the situation immediately transpired. So he's feeling a lot of guilt for having done that. And he is basically like, I had no clue she was sick. I wouldn't have done that if I had known. I'm so sorry for leaving you alone. And Sophie is more so concerned if Ben is perhaps infected or that she herself is infected, because she incorrectly read that like Helen and Ben maybe had a thing going on. So she looks at Ben and she goes, are you infected? And he's like, no, why would you? No, absolutely not. He's like, I never had any type of moment like that with Helen. So I'm sorry that you would think that. Like, I don't know why you would think that, but absolutely not. Like, that's not a thing. So then Sophie's like, well, I had a moment with Helen, but also Helen was like drooling on her and in her face, and they don't necessarily know that it's not airborne. So she's very much like, but what if I have the flu at this point? So anyways, the party rolls out from here. On the road, they pass by two really large mounds, and Ben is surprised that Sophie doesn't recognize what they are. And he says that they're burial mounds, basically saying that they're super common in the Midwest in general, but in Wisconsin there's a lot of them, so he's really surprised that she doesn't know what they are.
They have burial mounds?
Yeah, and
I'm in the Midwest. I
know I've absolutely been to some as a child, and we have traveled very thoroughly and extensively in Michigan, but also out west, so I don't necessarily know where, but I know in the summer times we would take like 2 weeks and we would just drive all over the goddamn state. So I know that there are that type of sort of in burial grounds and stuff like that. I know that there are some here, or at least near here, because again, we were either in Michigan or we were driving out to Colorado, and we didn't really do a ton beyond that. But she asks Ben if they're satanic. And Ben gets an expression on his face that she's not really sure how to read. And she's not sure why this question has made him look like he either feels insulted or hurt. He then basically says they're not satanic, they're native. But baby girl has never even heard of a Native American. She has no idea that they exist. She has no idea that this country has history beyond the Pilgrims landing here. So if we're not picking this up, Ben is Native American, and she's asking if his like cultural history is satanic, and so but he doesn't know that she doesn't know about the Native Americans. So that's just kind of what's happening. Also, side note, between here and where they're about to end up, Morrow will teach Sophie some self-defense lessons, like hand-to-hand, and then Cleo and Morrow teach both Ben and Sophie how to shoot guns. Anyways, they make it to their destination. It's a hotel and casino. The crew pulls up. Sophie is fully taken aback by how beautiful this hotel is. It's nicer than anywhere she's ever stayed, but the lobby has plants and rocks and trees and like water features, and she says it looks like a kinder, gentler version of reality, or maybe one that used to exist. They go through the screening process to enter the hotel. They get their temperatures taken, they answer questions, and then if they've come into contact with anyone infected, and then the people are like, don't worry if you have, because honestly, if you haven't at this point, I'm curious as to where the fuck you've been. So they let them in. They're like, if you head over to the casino, there's doing vaccines. If you haven't been vaccinated, you're welcome to stop by there. They set them up in a suite, and Morrow's like, one room for all of us. And they're like, yeah, but we gave you one of the bigger rooms, but we try to keep people who are traveling together so we can take in more people, basically. Like, if we consolidate everybody that arrived in one room, then we are able to take in more groups of people. So that's kind of their thought process there. And then Morrow asks how much for the room, and the front desk guy laughs and just says, don't worry about it. At a certain point, you just got to start helping each other out, right? And so the place is fully up and running and still has all of its utilities going, because power and internet and signal is like kind of cutting in and out as things are happening, but they are on a Native American reservation, which has its own utility system going, so they have their own power plant. So he's basically like, we're gonna run until someone comes and tells us we can't run anymore and makes us stop, basically. So they're just kind of there to kind of help people out that are traveling through. After they get cleaned up, Sophie tells Morrow that she would like to visit the science museum that is near the hotel. She says she wants to go there with Ben. Morrow very reluctantly agrees to take them because he knows that if he tells her no, she's probably going to end up going by herself anyways. So he's like, I'll go, but you have to, let's see. You have to promise to be smart about it. Like, please, I'll take you, but please don't be stupid. Don't go doing reckless shit.
Me?
Right. And then when she tells Ben, like, oh, Morrow's going to take us to the science museum, he seems really hesitant and he's not really making eye contact with her. And since the car, he's been like super, super quiet. And so she's worried that he's like upset with her. So let's see. They kind of come, I'm not sure if this is at the hotel or at the like science museum, but there is a book on the history of the casino and the Ho-Chunk Nation, which is who this reservation is for. And there are photos hanging on the walls of just sort of the Native American history. And Sophie is not only amazed to learn that Native Americans exist, she's amazed to learn that there are multiple tribes. So she like sees this and she's like, okay, cool, the Ho-Chunk people, nice, love it. And then she's like, wait, there's more? Like, but wait, there's even more Native American people. And she's had no idea that there were people here before the Europeans arrived.
What means so much?
Right. And she wants to ask Ben, like, is this true? Like, type of thing? Like, what is going on? But then she thinks back to his reaction about the burial mounds. And she is reminded that she had said that I forget you were raised differently. And she's like, now I'm starting to feel like that actually is a negative. Because at first she's like, he's saying that like it's a bad thing and I don't understand why it's bad that I was raised differently, but now she's just like, oh, like there's just so much I didn't even know about our own like country and history, like that is probably actually a bad thing. Yeah. The man that's working at the front desk asks Ben what tribe, and Ben kind of stammers like, oh, I don't know much about it. And the guy's like, do any of us know anything about anything? Like, just like, what tribe are you from, guy? And so he's like, oh, I'm like part of the Chippewa. And it takes Sophie a moment to like fully click that Ben is Native. At this point she's like, oh, he's part of a tribe, that's crazy. And so then it's kind of clicking for her why he's having this like kind of coldness towards her and why he felt so hurt by her question in the car. But before the man departs, he says to them, we've been here through 3 ice ages, we were here before, we'll be here after, we're gonna make it through this and so will you. And then the guy just kind of pats Ben on the shoulder and he's off. They end up in a library together. Ben seems to be in a little bit of a better mood now. And then they have a little bit of a cute moment. They're holding hands for a moment, and Sophie asks why he likes her. She's basically like, do you like me just because I remind you of the before times? And he just kind of laughs and goes, I liked you in the before times too. And she's like, really? And he's like, how did you not know that I liked you? Like, when I first met you, I was flirting with you. What are you talking about? So she again asks why, and he tells her it's because she listens and she learns and she's her own person. She thinks for herself. Most people think what they're told to think, and he knows that she struggles with a lot of stuff, but she asks questions and she leaves room for other possibilities than what she's already been told. She tells him that she isn't good the way he is, and he moves closer to her. She can see that there's grief on his face. So much pain in this boy who is so bright, so much brighter and lighter and better than anything I could ever be. He then tells her that he isn't that good. She looks at him and thinks that she's so glad it wasn't him that got sick. Like, she's like, I hate that I had to lose my friend, but I'm happy that I lost Helen and I didn't lose him. So she then leans in and gives him a smooch. His eyes shoot open. He's like very startled and he pulls back, and she apologizes. And again, she's overwhelmed with like shame, thinking that she did something wrong and that she misread the situation. I've done the unthinkable in the worst of times. I'm not worthy of anyone's love, she thinks to herself. She then lowers her eyes as they begin to well up, and she thinks that he's about to walk away from her, but he doesn't. He tucks a strand of hair behind her ear. He then pulls her in and kisses her again. When he pulls back, he rests his forehead against hers and he smiles. I'm changed, I am new, and in the darkest darkness of my life, we stand here in lethal color. They go back to do some more smooching. The way Ben looked at me, The way he wants me, there is power in this. This is the power my parents wanted to hide in boxy clothing. This is the power that fell a nation to move an empire. The power of Lilith in the story. And I have that within me. She leans closer, pressing her whole body into his. And then at that point, Morrow comes over the like walkie-talkie he gave them. And he goes, "Hello, you there? Come in over." And so the moment is obviously broken. Fast forward, they get back to the hotel. Morrow pulls Sophie off to the side. And he basically tells her that he wants to make sure that she's being safe and making smart choices. He explains that what she walked in on between him and Cleo, that it was really reckless and stupid of them to have done. He really wants to be a good example for her. He knows that she doesn't have parents anymore, and he wants to make sure that he's looking out for her and like setting a good example for her. And he explains that his sister lived like there was no tomorrow, and that was fine for her life, and maybe she was okay going out doing what she did. Basically, her and her friends as teenagers went like cliff jumping into like a river, and she was the first to jump, and there was not enough water below. So he's basically like, maybe she can look back and be happy that she did that because she was living life to the fullest when she died. He tells her that there is a tomorrow for her. And even if there's not a tomorrow for her, he wants her to understand that there will be a tomorrow for the people that love her. And basically says it's a really shitty feeling to be the one that's left behind. Basically, like, if you want to be reckless, that's fine, but I need you to understand that we care about you and we love you. And if something happens to you, we are left with the consequences of that. So just keep that in mind. Because he doesn't want her to put herself at unnecessary risk or just throw her life away just because. And as fans of The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones, we know that when two characters are having a really heart-to-heart bonding moment, that it's not going to end well. So fast forward, everybody's having dinner, discussing updates that they learned about the situation as they're just kind of milling about the hotel and talking to people. Ben kind of makes a comment of like, how many days has this even been? Like, does anyone know what date it is? And Cleo is like, yeah, it's October 8th. And Sophie's head whips up at this, and Cleo goes, "You good?" And Sophie doesn't want to answer, but now everybody is just staring at her, waiting for her to explain. And so she goes, "Yeah, it's my birthday." And then she's like, "I did the wrong thing. I said the wrong thing. I'm making this all about myself." And then Cleo just kind of smiles and goes, "Well, I guess we need to have a party then." So let's see. They're having a really great time. They went down and they got like a bunch of little cakes and stuff and like pastries from like the hotel where they're serving food. And they bring them up. They're just kind of playing games and talking. Cleo takes off. She has this really beautiful like gold pendant that she gives to Sophie. Sophie's like, "No," and Cleo's like, "It looks better on you anyways, just keep it." Ben pulls her aside and gives her a card that he had made. He tells her to open it and read it later, but he tells her that she deserves this and so much more. One of the games they end up playing is just kind of discussing fears. They also played this game where they're discussing what kind of animals they would be, and Sophie's like, "It never even occurred to me to like think of this type of thing." So it's just like, just really cute, but also like really sad that like her life just had so little imagination that even just like pondering different things like that just never even occurred to her. But they're talking about fears, and Sophie says that her greatest fear is possession and being wicked and going to hell. And Cleo asks Sophie why she fears possession. And she replies that possession is a loss of free will and autonomy. And Cleo responds, "You're afraid of possession for the reason they want you to fear it. Because on some level you feel like you've already given up your free will. God and Jesus and the devil and angels and demons have already infiltrated your thoughts and being. The church has. They make us so afraid of possession, doing or being wrong, because they don't want us to see that they've already done it to us. That fear and the guilt and the shame has possessed you and your entire life. They put it there. Now tell me who you think deserves to be in hell for that." So later that night, everyone's gone to sleep. Sophie is curled up with Bargist. She's thinking that all of these people make her feel like this life is worth living, like type of thing of like, I can have a future and I don't love how everything's gone down, but I would probably make all of these choices again just to end up with this being like my family.
Aw.
Yeah, so she opens
All right,
her
who's dying?
Who's not? She opens her gift from Ben. It's a card that's made of pictures from the Dells. In that somewhere, her and Noah had always talked about wanting to go. They had always hoped that their parents would take them there, but their parents very rarely took them anywhere. And she had kind of mentioned this to him while they were in the library, so he had kind of taken some books from there and cut out pictures and made a collage. And the card just says, "I'm lucky to know you." And she is feeling happy and smitten, and then she hears Cleo whisper, "He's one of the good ones." And Sophie looks over at Cleo and she thanks her for the necklace, telling Cleo that she's never owned something so beautiful. She thanks Cleo for the other thing, which would be kind of helping her kind of break down her sort of upbringing type of thing, and like reinforcing that Sophie's a good person and that she doesn't have to live by all these rules. So Cleo looks like she has more to say at this point, and she bites her lip before telling Sophie that what she saw Cleo and Morrow do at the school, that it wasn't safe or smart, but that Cleo isn't sorry that it happened. They tell us this, or they call this thing Sylvia. They made her a woman like storms and destruction. I get the sense no one has ever said this to you, so for what it's worth, you don't carry a precious gift to give only once. And you do not lose value as a human or a woman once you give it. You are the precious thing, and you get to do whatever you want with it. You matter. You have to live your life as though you matter now and always. Sophie thinks to herself, I got a party and birthday gifts and love and acceptance. And even though we're in danger, and there are ideas that are threatening to destabilize the entire world, even if Helen's absence is so much louder than everything happening around us, I'm here surrounded by love. But then she thinks again to herself that she doesn't know where Noah is. She's like, I'm here. I found a family. I'm loved and appreciated, but my brother could be alone somewhere type of thing. So she's feeling guilty about enjoying and being loved and cared for. And again, another really impactful emotional moment. Hold these happy memories while you can, because it is literally all downhill from here.
Nothing bad could ever happen to me.
Disclaimer, I'm going to tell you what I tell you. Don't fucking ask questions. If I say something that doesn't make sense, too bad. I probably cut some shit out that you probably don't want to hear. I promise it's for the good of all of us that I just tell you what I tell you. Shit had me sobbing in my car, and this is honestly an experience that I have had, so you guys don't have to. Not that I had it, so you have to as well type of thing. If you want the pain, read the fucking book. Even if you don't want the pain, it's a really good book, so read it anyways. But because I couldn't even do this justice if I wanted to, and I could not listen to this section of the audiobook a second time. So if things don't make sense, too bad. Suck it up. So Sophie wakes up to heat. She tries to open her eyes. She reaches out for Bargus, but he's not there. She sits up, and the room won't come into focus at all. Her eyes are burning and watering. The air is thick, it's hard to breathe, and she smells campfire. It then clicks to her that the room is full, floor to ceiling, with smoke. No alarm is going off, and she's like, there's a backup generator to protect against this. Maybe someone shut it off. Like, what is going on? And then she sits up, her lungs are burning. She calls out to everyone in the room that there's a fire, but no one is really waking up because they've been inhaling so much smoke that, like, just every single person is like fucking out. She is able to eventually get Cleo and everybody awake. They are taking like scraps of cloth and dipping them in water and like covering their mouths. Bargus won't wake up, so they like fully like wash his face and then like strap a fucking hoodie around his like nose and stuff. They are able to all get up and get moving. Let's see. So Morrow bursts into the room and tells them that they need to get going right the fuck now. Ben starts soaking the cloth. They're good to go. Ben gets Bargus up, fully awake on his feet, and he looks at Sophie and says, just worry about finding your crutch. I'm gonna make sure that we all get it out. Like, get out. Like, don't worry about Bargus. Figure out where your crutch is so we can go. Cleo has already made an exit, telling them that she'll meet up with them outside, probably because there's a character I fully left out. So there are flames in the hall. Fire is leaping everywhere. There's one stairwell just fully engulfed in flames. Everybody who's staying in the hotel is stampeding. So our crew joins in with the stampede, trying to run to the one stairwell that isn't in flames. Someone rushes past and knocks Sophie to the floor. Her lungs are burning and she's struggling to get back up on her feet as people are rushing past her, and then she feels a hand on her arm. It's Morrow. He picks her up. But right in front of them, there's an elderly woman who is also struggling to remain on her feet. So Morrow looks at Ben and he says, make sure Sophie gets out okay. And he goes up and he picks the woman up and he carries her out. Sophie tells Ben to just worry about Vargas to make sure that he gets outside. Ben tries to argue with her, but she's like, please just make sure Vargas gets outside. Because he's had a lot of, he's having issues with the smoke. And she's like, I just need you to make sure my dude's good. She's like, I'll get outside, just get him out. So the look he gives her tells her that he doesn't agree with this, but the last thing he wants to do is upset her, and he trusts her, so he nods. And with that, Ben is off with our sweet baby Angel and the goodest boy. Sophie is clinging to the stairwells, trying to get herself down with her injured foot, but people are rushing past her. The crowd is shoving and shouting and tripping. She takes a kick to the ankle. She screams out in pain. Smoke is pouring into the stairwell. It's getting really difficult for her to see. She then takes a really hard shove to the back and loses her footing and fully slams her hip hard against the concrete stairs. Something slams into her stomach as she slides further down the stairs, her skull colliding with the metal of the door frame, and then everything goes dark. So she did make it to the bottom of the stairs, but as she was sliding down the stairs, she took the door frame to the noggin, so she is knocked unconscious. When she opens her eyes, though, the world is on fire. Everything is glowing red-orange, radiating blistering heat. She's outside and there's bonfires all around, ashes raining down on her. Red demons with torches are cornering people. There are too many to count, moving through the night. A hand grips her elbow, telling her that they need to get away from the building. It's Ben. Vargas is with him. She follows Ben as gunshots ring out. Smoke clears and Sophie can see Morrow. He's kind of standing at the door directing people, trying to make sure that as many people get as safely away as they can. Suddenly Vargas takes off into the night. He's not running towards Morrow, so Sophie's like, where is he going? Like, what is he sensing? So he stops abruptly and starts pawing at the ground and whining. Sophie doesn't see what he's pawing at because of the smoke. But as a breeze picks up and smoke clears, she drops to her knees and she sees red pants. Sophie quickly begins applying pressure to Cleo's stomach, but Cleo grabs her wrist and tells her no. She's struggling to speak, but Cleo just says, fight these motherfuckers, and pushes her gun towards Sophie, and then she's gone. Ben tries to get Sophie up, begging her to move. She's holding the gun and she leans into Ben and they reach a part of the lawn that's less smoky, and they crouch down behind a small wall. Ben puts his hand out as someone in a red robe rushes by, and they're crouched in the shadows. They watch as this figure sets down a torch and begins to open a gas can. His plan is to basically just set the entire grass on fire, so even if you did make it out of the building, you can't make it away from the building type of thing. So, all these people choking, running for their lives from the one safe place they had, because one group doesn't believe in medicine, because they seized an opportunity to make the world what they want it to be, at the ultimate expense to others. A group who are supposed to be my people, all the cruelties, all the pain they're causing others to endure. Sophie hears Cleo's last words in her head, fight these motherfuckers, and Sophie is up and she's crossing the lawn to the man with gasoline. Confusion passes over his face as he sees this young girl limping towards him. A girl full of unseen fire. She picks up her pace as she approaches him. She's not feeling any pain right now. She will beat him even if it breaks her. He begins to run and she begins to chase after him. She hears Ben yelling at her before he intercepts a hooded man that was coming at her from behind. All she sees is the torch in front of her. The one thing she can do for this place against the people trying to destroy it, she reaches out for the torch, but the robed man grabs it first. She lifts Cleo's gun and points it at his head, but he grabs her elbow and shoves it. The gun falls. He kicks it away from her. He smiles at her as he's holding the torch. She can see him, the kind of man she would have seen at church hundreds of times, not a harbinger of God, not scary or powerful, not anything at all. She screams at him, asking why he's doing this. He holds the torch so close to her face that the heat is burning her. She tries to grab the torch, but he grabs her wrist before she can, and he drops the gas can. It splashes up on her legs and arms as it hits the ground. She's trying to pull out of his grasp. He looks smugly at her and tells her God's plan will always prevail. She thinks this man is so painfully ordinary and so cruelly mediocre. She thinks of Cleo and what Cleo would do. She tells him there's no way in hell that any of this is God's plan before she gives him an elbow to the gut. He staggers back, but he shoves her really hard in the ribs before she can grab the torch. As she stumbles back, he shoves her down into the grass and she falls into a puddle of gas. He's standing over her holding the torch. As he leans towards her, a black shape flies out of the air and tackles him to the ground. The goodest boy, he tears into the man's throat. Sophie doesn't see a robed figure running at her, or Sophie sees a robed figure running at her. She grabs the woman's robe as the woman is approaching, and she yanks her to the ground. The woman swings her knife at Sophie. Maro's how-tos go through Sophie's mind, and so she shoves her palm up into the woman's nose, completely smashing it. The woman grabs at her face before reaching back out for the knife, but Sophie is faster. She sinks the knife into the woman's chest until it hits bone. Sophie turns to see Ben on the ground. His attacker is running at her. She pushes herself to stand before she feigns collapsing. She's an injured sinner and a pliant lamb. The man slows as he's approaching because he thinks like, okay, cool, she's injured. I don't need a rush. He closes in on her and she plunges her knife. She's aiming for his groin, but she ends up hitting him in the thigh. He's shocked and rage falls over his face. He swings his knife down at her, slicing her face open. Using strength she's never possessed, she slices through his wrist. He tackles her to the ground and he sits on top of her, but she plunges her knife into his side again and again until he stops fighting and he's nothing but flesh on top of her. She wrestles herself free from under him. Hands grasp her. She's fighting them off. She didn't fight hard enough for Noah or Cleo, but she's going to fight now. The arms are holding her. A voice is yelling at her, pulling her away from the flames that she's reaching into. She's sobbing, but the voice doesn't stop. The grip is tighter and tighter, pulling her back and rocking her in the grass as she's fighting. Ben is holding her and telling her he's so sorry over and over. More yelling to their left. Someone running at them. None of it matters as she fights to get out of Ben's arms still until everything goes quiet and it's just tears and flames. Sophie screams. A bullet grazes her cheek as a robed figure is feet away from them. She doesn't know what the end will bring, but she knows she will carry vengeance with her. The man pulls the trigger, but 2 shots ring out. The smoke is too thick to see. Sophie looks at herself and then at Ben, and neither of them have been shot. The smoke on the grass clears. A figure is on the ground, and Maro is sitting on the ground beside of him. He's staring at them. Sophie screams at Maro, and he looks down at his own chest. Red is spreading from the center. Sophie crawls over to him. She grabs him and helps him lay down. She is propping his head on her lap, and Maro says her name and then Cleo's. Sophie tells him that everyone's okay and that they need to worry about him right now. She tells him that he's going to be okay and that they're going to take care of him, and he smiles and he asks if she's okay, and she says that depends on if he gets up or not. Eventually, Ben pulls her away, telling her that they need to go. They don't have time, and they need to go now if they're going to go at all. Ben gets her into a car and gets them away from the casino. He pulls over at a gas station. He's shaking too much to drive, and they sit and watch as the night shifts into day. She sees a billboard near where they're sitting that says Holy Hill, and that is one of the places that her parents had actually taken her and her brother. So she thinks to herself that maybe Noah would go there. So she kind of pulls out her phone and she does some Googling. And there are forums saying that Holy Hill is a safe place right now. And basically, if people head there, it's like it's a safe spot. So she She sees a post that also mentions that the kids from Noah's facility had been moved from the hospital to Holy Hill. And so they get there. They decide that's where they're going. They get there. But Holy Hill is filled with nothing but dead. 200 faces she has searched, and none of them were Noah. They sit. Sophie is feeling hopeless. She was sure that he was going to be there. Ben puts a hand on her shoulder and tells her that if Noah has a sister like Sophie, then he's sure that he knows that Sophie's coming for him. At this point, it occurs to Sophie, like, oh, you're right. He probably does know that we're coming, that I would be searching for him. So she decides to go search the barracks to see if maybe he left something behind for her. And she finds a origami crane. And one of the things he would do with her when she would come into his room at night when she's scared of a storm, he like taught her how to make origami cranes. So she finds an origami crane, she opens it, and she starts sobbing because of the handwriting inside. Sophie, I've left these notes every place we've been. I don't know if you'll find them, but I know you're still alive and that you will find me. Noah goes on to explain that he met someone, Tyler. They have a friend who was sent to the facility due to being pregnant. They are going to try to find a place for her to have her baby safely. He tells Sophie that he's not able to come to her, but he hopes that she will find him. I know you'll find me, Sophie, if you're alive, and I know you are. Twin Islands, you will find me. The world from before is gone. It's a good thing. It's time to start over. Please know that you are my person and my other half. I wouldn't be me without you. Please know you are everything. I know there has been so much darkness and bloodshed, but I can't help feeling that we are due for a reset and maybe it was time for a change. This world, obsessed with keeping us obedient. You're smart, Sophie, but sometimes you don't see what's in front of you, so in case you need to hear it, in case it's the last thing to push you forward, closer to me, sin is made up, and it's stupid, and it doesn't exist. I love you. Sophie and Ben find an abandoned house. They're resting. Sophie's like really mad because she knows Noah's going somewhere, and he clearly knows where he's going, but he didn't tell her anything about it. So she's just really frustrated and hopeless and mad, and she doesn't know what to do or where to go. Ben is talking about how his mom had grown up on a reservation and she left in order to be with his dad. And then when his dad left, his mom didn't want to uproot his life to return to the reservation, and he knows she had always wanted to take him so he could see it. So Sophie is just kind of like, do you know where it is? So they pull out a map and they look at the reservation, and he looks really hopeful. And she's like, oh, we could definitely make that in a day or two, depending on like the quarantine zones we have to get around. And she is basically like, do you want to go? And Ben asks if she's sure she's okay with going, rather than continuing to search for Noah. But then as she's looking at where the reservation is, she sees a cluster of islands. And she starts laughing, and then she begins crying because the cluster of islands is called Twin Islands. So she tells Ben that she's definitely okay going there, because Noah was telling her where he was going. We are not okay, and we will never unsee or unfeel or unknow. There is so much I will never forgive myself for, and I will carry with me forever. We are broken and battered and not the same people we were. We hardly know ourselves. We are drowning in grief, so profound we might not live through it. I have so many questions and so much to learn, but I choose this again and again. I cling to Ben and he holds me so tight. My skin and his, nothing is fast enough, nothing brings us close enough. Ben and I let ourselves just be together. This life of choice and freedom, our world is just beginning. We head north towards our families and the unknown side by side. I grab for his hand and he grips mine. Maybe I have lived to know the love of my life. Maybe this is everything, this power and this freedom. The end.
So they kind of leave it like open.
Mhm.
Kind of like maybe she finds them, maybe she doesn't. But
Yeah.
your good heart will always be like, they found each other.
Yes.
That was good.
Yes.
I feel like I would die saying both of those. Or like I would just die inside reading both of those die. Both of those people die. Trauma. It's giving like Last of Us 2 with the acolytes and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
See, I was thinking this was a prequel to The Unnamed Midwife.
I mean,
Very similar vibes.
Yeah,
We
kind of.
obviously know your genre.
yeah. Yeah.
She knows a bunch of skills. She learns about drag, bisexual,
Absolutely. Yes, we love the queer representation.
apocalyptic.
Yeah. Illness.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna say a flu.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that end scene was so fucking hard.
Aw.
Yeah. I was just like, please stop. I get it. You can stop. Please. Please stop. And then the like note from the author in the back. She had recently lost her dog, and I was like, girl, you didn't have to pour all that goddamn hurt into my fucking face.
Aw.
Fuck, dude. But
Did the dog survive? No. But he did the best things when he was the goodest boy. Brain's like, I'm gonna die.
yeah, it was
I'm reliving it.
rough.
PTSD.
It was rough. Yeah, I turned off the audiobook as I was writing my script to do that scene because I'm like, I can't listen to that again. That was so
Aw.
hard. And the narrator does so good with like just pouring emotion into the character, and I think that was part
Even worse, yeah.
Yeah, but I actually read another book by her if not like earlier this year than last year, and I liked it a lot. It was definitely more of like an extreme horror type, not extreme necessarily in like a splatterpunk sort of way, but it was like more gory and graphic, and so was this one. Absolutely, like just the fucking chewing of people's faces off that that happened in this one. But this one was just so much deeper. Like just the characters, just everything that was happening was just so much more like emotional, and I was very surprised at how much I loved this one. The cover just was.
They have a sequel?
I don't think so. I think this one actually maybe just came out very recently. I'm not positive. I know it's been on my TBR since like September. But the cover is just so pretty. I actually think I added this to my TBR after I had my first like splatterpunk moment.
What is splatterpunk again?
It's just like really graphic extreme horror.
Oh.
But here's the cover.
It's a really pretty cover.
I know. And I was like, well, yeah, that's going to be on my T-Bear, definitely. And I had no idea what it was about. I had no idea that it was zombies. Not a fucking clue. I assumed that it would be perhaps post-apocalyptic, just, American Rapture. But yeah, I was so taken aback by how good it was and how much I enjoyed it.
I love seeing people do genres in ways just slightly different. Like the fact that they're like rabid sex animals.
Yeah, because it's like the only thing more terrifying than like a brainless thing trying to like eat your flesh is a brainless thing trying to like remove your clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the fact that nobody will help each other, like just the number of scenes in which someone,
which is true,
is violently being assaulted and everybody around them is just not doing a goddamn thing to help them because everyone else is too busy thinking like, well, thank God that's not me.
Well, it's like true culturally around everywhere. If something happened, it's like when I was in college and my Japanese teacher said, if you're in trouble in Japan, scream fire, not help.
And that was something my parents had always told me.
And that's it. That's here too. You scream fire, not help.
Yeah, that was something that as I got my license and was like a free range chicken, my parents were just like, if ever you need help, do not scream help. Do not scream that someone's attacking you. Scream fire because someone's more likely to try to assist with a fire than they will anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one of those like just heavy things, but just as a man, it's probably not hitting me as much as it would hit you or other people, but still, like, I don't know, not like heavy guilt or anything, but just like that's just a lot, and I'm not even like.
It's very hide your kids, hide your wives, because they getting everybody out here.
Like literally,
like the road rage incident, that was man on man crime.
That was man on man crime. It was. And I'm like, at least it's not biased.
It's so true, baby.
It's like, I just want to get my virus out there. I don't care what mouth it is.
It wasn't mouth.
What was something that I watched recently? Like, it was a show where they were, like, trying to spread the virus, and one of them was like, "I'm putting my throat in your mouth. My tongue in your mouth."
Also, just as someone who's like germophobic and like who very much has a lot of issues with like bodily fluids just in general, just the thought of them just trying to get their fluids in and around your mouth and in and around your body, so fucking horrifying and harrowing. Also, the fucking flat earth dude, he's like, they made us sign a paper that we can't jack off, and like, that's cruelty. I've been struggling and I just need your help. Don't worry, I won't keep you long. I'm just like, you got a hand, my guy. If
But
you're
also, don't spew your fucking fluid. But yeah, even if you were to break the rules,
but you would rather break the rules to hurt someone else than break the rules to just help yourself.
It's like, no, she broke the rules. She touched me. I didn't do anything. Wait, it is something you told me. It was the mermaid one. They all got horny and wanted to bite. It is the mermaid one.
Okay.
Yeah, they were. You right. But they also had like fucking shark teeth and shit. There was also another fucking mermaid book I just read, and I was like, I want to do a script on this one. I'm like, I can't just keep doing a script on the
I think
book
we're
I just most
transitioning from Dragon Era to mermaids currently, because I'm seeing a lot of mermaid stuff.
Yeah, there will be an episode on Bleach, or not Bleach, Chlorine at some point, because
I was like, I didn't know you watched Bleach. Don't get, I know.
But no, Chlorine. It's mermaid horror. Okay, Nick, hit us with something.
Send us out.
High school never yaps. Oh.
Bye.
Bye.